Chapter 1. Yggdrasil. Muspelheim. In the world of fire and magma within the virtual universe of Yggdrasil, the most popular DMMO-RPG on Earth, two beings fought crazily with all their might, moving through the air like twin meteors of destruction. One of the players, a seraphim with 6 pairs of wings, swung his sword while calling out one of his signature Tier 7 spells. Holy Blade Slash. His opponent, a Dragon Lord, the highest rank of the Dragonoid race class, similarly used one of his own signature skills to counter his longtime rival and friend's attack. Resist Element, Flame Strike. The sword of the angel that looked like it was made with crystallized rainbow thanks to its ever-shifting, kaleidoscopic light, clashed with the Tier 7 immunity spell, Resist Element. The angel reacted nearly instantly and pulled back, barely avoiding the counterattack from the Dragon Lord's follow-up attack, the Flame Strike, which created a blade of fire to cut through the defensive spells of his opponents, dealing fire damage status effect and increasing his own critical hit damage should the blow land. If the player avatars were capable of expression, there would be no doubt that these two would be grinning like madmen at this moment. How about we take this up a notch? Dracovon. Dracovon, the world champion of Muspelheim, the tyrant of Ash, grinned in the real world at the challenge from his eternal rival and best friend. Took the words right out of my mouth. Etherian. Etherian, the Dawnbringer, the greatest solo player in the world of Muspelheim, also grinned in the real world, preparing to end this fight quickly. With a wave of his hand, the kaleidoscopic sword in his hand twisted, turning into a lance that could be thrown while the Dragon Lord activated his own special item, making the beautiful crown on his head turn gray like the ash in the air, while it burst into hellish black flames. Etherian pulled back his arm, preparing to throw the lance while spreading his wings completely. Holy Strike, Bless, Aura of Purity. With the 3 Tier 10 buff spells, the angel's stats shot through the roof temporarily as the world item in his hand, Aurora's Oath, gained a substantial boost. But he was not done yet, as he used a final spell to boost its damage further. Heaven's Judgment. A super tier spell so powerful that it was comparable to another super tier spell famously used by the Guild Master of Ains Ul Gaun, Fallen Down. The additional effects of Heaven's Judgment immediately boosted Aurora's Oath to the point where its power was nearly unstoppable. The same power that earned its wielder the nickname, One-Man Raid, due to how powerful he becomes with this combo. Of course, being the rival of such a being, Dracovon was not someone to be trifled with so easily either. Prismatic Resistance Scale of the Eternal Dragon, Worldbreaker's Fury. With his own buffs boosting his stats and resistance across the board, directly matching his rival's own power and even countering it on some level, Dracovon used his own super tier magic to boost his own world item, Crown of Ashes. Eternal Pyre of Tyranny. At once, the Crown of Ashes experienced a drastic buff to its abilities, which were already a ridiculous buff to Dracovon's breath attacks. Opening his maw, which engaged his breath attack animation on his avatar, he used his stronger dragon breath skill. A ball of pure power manifested within the maw of Dracovon while the kaleidoscopic lance of Etherian struggled within said angel's grasp, desiring to leap out on its own and kill its target. As one, the angel and the Dragonoid let loose their final attacks. The lance tore through the air, leaving behind a line of kaleidoscopic colors as if space itself had been torn asunder in its wake, while the breath attack manifested in a thin but potent stream of energy, as if an angry laser that sought to reduce everything to ash. It was when these two attacks that brought great renown to their wielders clashed that the world of fire and magma turned silent, as if in respect and fear of these formidable beings. However, it was at this moment that the Dragonoid showed why he managed to become the world champion of Muspelheim while his friend and rival fell to him in that fateful tournament. While his breath attack was still clashing with Etherian's world item, Dracovon unleashed another super tier magic, albeit at a great cost. Dragon Horde. Instantly, 20 dragons manifested in the air, each one at level 80 and wielding powerful breath attacks as an addition to their already impressive stats. But Dracovon was not done yet. Dragon's Dominion, Draconic Supremacy. The buff, Draconic Supremacy, boosted the summoned horde of dragons to nearly level 90 while Dragon's Dominion negated the flight buffs that Etherian had used some time before to boost his agility in the air, making him slower to react. Familiar with his friend and rival's move, Etherian used his own summoning spell, knowing that it would be a futile effort but unwilling to give up that easily. Pantheon. 6 Cherubium Gatekeepers, powerful NPC angel summons of level 80, were summoned immediately by Etherian's side. Their lion heads and manes and armored humanoid bodies painted a majestic and holy radiance as their 4 wings unfurled completely, giving them a divine visage. And leading this group of powerful angels was the greatest angel summon in the game. Its pure and radiant form looked similar to an armored knight, wearing pristine silver armor with embedded jewels across its form, similar to a human knight, yet its 10 radiant wings made of pure light gave it a divine visage similar to the stories of old. Seraph Empyrean. The level 90 angel summon was unrivaled in terms of summonable creatures of the heteromorphic kind. Yet, Etherian did not stop there. Freedom, Heaven's Ward, Mass Sanctuary, Holy Aura. One after another, he stacked buffs on his summons and himself, trying to gain an edge against his rivals' attacks. Freedom fought against Dragon's Dominion to release his and his Angel's flight restrictions. Heaven's Ward struggled against Draconic Supremacy that boosted the Dragon Horde's stats while weakening Etherian and his Angel's stats. Mass Sanctuary worked to boost his own stats along with his Angel's, while Holy Aura tried to shield his summons from being targeted by Dracovon's debuff spells. Yet, while doing all of this, he was distracted from his main attack by diverting his mana to other spells, just like Dracovon wanted. By forcing Etherian to divert some of his mana, which fueled his Aurora's Oath, Dracovon could use his natural advantage in mana capacity to overwhelm his rival's attack. Which is exactly what he did, causing his breath attack to quickly tear through the Aurora's Oath, reducing it to motes of light that returned to Etherian's inventory. The breath attack quickly tore through Etherian's wings, causing true elemental damage, which instantly inflicted several debuffs on him and reduced his HP to a mere few points. Ha ha ha. I won. Just like always. Screw you. At the angry angel's shout, Dracovon simply laughed again as the duel notice appeared between the two, announcing Dracovon's win and Etherian's loss. With a shake of his head, Etherian dismissed his summons and pulled out a few healing items while Dracovon did the same. With a few clicks on the console, the two top-level solo players disappeared from the central volcanoes of Muspelheim and appeared at the edge of the realm where the main city of this realm existed. A place where most of the solo players gathered. And yet, as the two players walked through the streets, they did not find the bustling area as they had expected. Instead, all they found were a sparse few players and a handful of NPCs manning the various stores. Quote. I guess, not even such a big event would make people come back here, huh? Dracovon's glum words made Etherian stay silent, yet he too felt just as sad as his best friend. They were veteran players of the game, playing since the day it was launched to escape the cruel reality of Earth and find some solace in this world. Yet, who would have thought that even this final sanctuary for their sanity would be taken from them like this? It cannot be helped. Those bastards at the government have been placing increased taxes on everything, especially the entertainment sector, which has forced YGGDRASIL's developers to pay more money than they earn. It only makes sense that they would choose to let go of this project and focus on something else. What are they supposed to do now? Even if they make another game, they will still have to pay those unfair taxes. At his friend's bitter words, Etherian had no response as he too felt the same. Because in their shitty world, where the planet had long since died and people lived in a dead world. With food, water, and even oxygen, being sold at exorbitant prices to the civilians while the big companies and governments relish in luxuries far beyond the wildest dreams of the common man. Safely living out their lives of decadence within domes full of the last vestiges of Earth's nature while ordinary people like Etherian, real name David Goodman, and Dracovon, true name Michael Connor, had no rights and no way to truly lead a happy life under the smog-covered skies, the acid rains, the unbreathable air that required people to have artificial lungs to breathe and the polluted earth beneath their feet. Soon, the two arrived at the local tavern, where solo players normally gathered once upon a time to have some fun, yet now, it was nearly barren with only a handful of scattered players here and there. The two friends silently sat down at an isolated table and watched as the shutdown counter started to tick down. 1 o'clock. I guess, I never did manage to defeat you, E.H. Etherian's words came steadily, yet in real life, there were already tears gathering in his eyes as he knew this would probably be the last time he would ever see his friend in person. The travel charges for traveling between states were so exorbitant that most people could not afford such a luxury. In such a situation, it was a given that an ordinary factory worker like Dracovon could never afford a ticket to travel from San Francisco all the way to New York to meet him, just like he could not afford the travel since he, too, was a regular worker in a private firm. All they could afford was phone calls, which was not the same as meeting each other face to face like this. Not to mention their 12-hour shifts, which were recently implemented across the country, making it really hard for people to have the time to do anything else aside from work and sleep. Such is the cost of unchecked capitalism after all. 030. Yeah, my record still remains. That means I am a better PvP player than you. Hey, that is uncalled for. I am still a powerful PvP player that is very well regarded, you know. Sure. Except that I am still better than you. You. 010. With a sigh, the two friends watched the ticking timer. Quote. I'll miss this a lot. Michael. So will I. David. But it's not like we will never talk again, right? In real life, the two friends had a wry smile on their faces as tears slowly fell down their faces, already mourning the loss of this friendship that had lasted for so many years, ever since they first met in the game during the launch. 003. Goodbye, World Champion. Tyrant of Ash. Dracovan. 002. Goodbye, Dawnbringer, One-Man Raid, Etherian. 001. May we meet again, in another branch of the World Tree. 000. With a flash of light, everything vanished from Etherian's vision. Yet, before he completely lost consciousness, he saw a peculiar sight that chilled his heart for some reason. The counter that had gone down to 0 suddenly started counting up again. And he knew no more. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 2. I do not know how long I was unconscious, but the moment my consciousness returned, I knew that things were not right. Instead of waking up in a shitty apartment with my neural nano interface showing me the timing for my next shift at work, what I found was a strange ruin that looked like it would crumble if I looked at it the wrong way. Made of stone that had long since withered due to the elements, it was the ruins of some sort of castle that would not look out of place in YGGDRASIL's Midgard. But I knew that this could not be the game. Mainly because I could feel my face and the expression forming on my face. I could feel everything that my hands were touching as if I were in real life, which should not be possible in the game since the sense of touch over there was greatly muted, mostly similar to the haptic feedback systems from nearly a century ago. I could even smell the scent of sulfur and other such things in the air. While most of these restrictions in the virtual world were something artificially created thanks to the Social Order Maintenance Act that most countries of the world had signed long ago to keep people from confusing the virtual world with the real one, and to heavily limit the escapism spike that appeared in the populace after the last few forests of Earth died out due to pollution, it did not mean that some people did not try to hack into the systems and enable these settings. Something that I had once tried out of curiosity. And yet, even that near-realistic sensation that I experienced for that limited time was nothing compared to what I am feeling right now. Slowly, I got up from the ground, and only then realized that I was still wearing my armor from my avatar. Okay, something is seriously wrong here. Am I still in the game somehow? Was there some kind of glitch that happened at the game shutdown? I shuddered as I thought about that scenario. That disaster of 2080, when a few hundred players from an early prototype of a DMMO-RPG game were killed during the beta test due to a bug in the game, flashed through my mind. I despise the earth of my time, and wish for nothing more than spending my life in the world of Yggdrasil, but that does not mean that I want to die either. Alright. Don't panic. First things first, scout out the area. I thought to myself as I felt my emotions slowly stabilize, allowing me to analyze my situation more clearly. First things first, I need to search for hostile mobs or creatures in the area. Detect life. A simple spell that looks for any hostile mobs in the area is a co-L spell and not categorized into the tier system. The moment I cast the spell, I knew that something was wrong. Because instead of a simple drop in my mana being shown on the screen, I actually felt something within me being reduced by a little bit. The amount was so small that I could barely detect it, but I still felt the difference. Okay, now I am really starting to worry about what is going on here. Thankfully, the Detect Life spell came back negative on any mobs nearby, so that means I could at least take the time to survey my surroundings. Looking at the ruins around me, I started to slowly walk around, trying to see if I could find anything that would tell me what was going on. It was only when I walked a little bit that I found that there was some kind of strange magic circle drawn into the floor of the crumbling ruin, in the same place where I had just woken up. Weird. Did I accidentally end up in some unknown area of Yggdrasil due to some bug after server shutdown? Whatever the case might be, I think I need to get out of here as quickly as possible. I waved my hand in the air, right in front of me. An action that would always manifest the screen full of menu options, which included the logout button. The console from which we players control everything about our avatars and interactions in the game. Yet, no such console manifested at my actions. I felt panic slowly grow within my heart as I waved my hand again, a bit more aggressively, yet the system did not recognize my actions. Fuck. What the hell is going on here? Is this really a bug, or is something else going on? If I am somehow trespassing or something into some internal beta testing of a different game or something of that nature, I really will be screwed. The police will throw me away for a long time. With no other choice, I decided to first try and reach the administrators and the shitty devs somehow. Maybe message will work. I don't really have any hope for it since the message spell was designed for use between players and not the GMs, but I don't have any other choice. Besides, if Dracovan or any other player is out there who is also caught in this bug or whatever this is, it could be a boon to try and find out what is going on. So, without wasting any time, I cast the spell. Immediately, I once again felt that familiar dip in something within me, as the spell activated. Yet, it did not even ring like it should and instantly terminated, making a pit form within my stomach. This can only mean one thing. I am alone out here, no other player aside from me. Fuck. Okay. Calm down. I need to survey the area and see if I can recognize anything from it. Maybe I am still in Yggdrasil or something. Given that I can smell sulfur and the scent of something burning in the air, maybe I am still in Muspelheim. I wanted to unfurl my wings and take to the skies. Something that I could do with a mental command that the system would interpret as a system command. However, before I could even make the system command, the very moment I thought of taking flight, I felt my 12 wings unfurl and fill up with the energy within me, my mana, my brain supplied to me automatically. In an instant, I shot into the air like a meteor and tore through the skies at lightning speed. I wanted to scream at the sudden speed and actions of my body, but somehow, I suddenly felt a bit calmer and felt like all of this was very familiar. Like I had done all of this many times before. The undercurrent of emotions was still there, but I felt like there was no need to let them take control. And right now, I do not even have the time to feel any of that. Because right now, I could tell that all of this was not some bug. Not some kind of error in the code or anything like that. This was real. As real as the wings that I could feel behind my back that I could control flawlessly, like the sheer power bubbling beneath the surface within me, like the strange sense of disgust I felt for everything around me, like a halo of divinity hanging above my head. All of this was real. Somehow, my avatar from Yggdrasil had become real, and I had become one with it. David Goodman, an ordinary office worker from the devastated world of Earth from the year 2138, had somehow become Etherian the Seraphim. I continued rocketing into the sky, tearing through the clear purple skies of wherever I am, as my instincts screamed at me to do something. So, I decided to let my instincts take over and let my control over my body go. However, what I did not expect was for my world item, Aurora's Oath, to manifest in my hand as a particular spell came to my mind. Might as well try it and see what happens. I felt a significant chunk of my mana disappear as I primed the spell and raised my spear. With a swing, I called upon the spell that, in the game, was able to deal significant damage while ignoring all protection and armor points. However, in this reality I found myself in, it did something far more interesting. Reality Slash. The Tier 10 spell tore through the fabric of space, creating a momentary breach into which my body shot into as I was far too surprised to stop. Then, only darkness remained as I once again went unconscious. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 3. Lucifod, Underworld. In the ancient forgotten city of Lucifod, the original capital of the devil race, multiple devils flew in the air, surveying the area with their magics, while one particularly powerful devil oversaw everything from above. Lord Zekram. We have found the source of the anomaly. Zekram Baal, the former lord of the Baal family, the progenitor of the Baal bloodline, the unofficial leader of the Great King faction, simply nodded as he waited for his subordinate to speak. The devil took the cue and immediately started speaking while showing the photos that he and his team had taken. What his ancient purple eyes saw in the photos was enough to send a jolt of shock through his body as he instantly recognized what he was seeing. The devil subordinate, who had no idea that his master had already realized what was going on, started speaking. From what we found, there appears to be various prisons thousands of years old underneath the city. The purpose of these prisons and who they were used for is still unknown. But what we did find by tracing the source of the enormous holy energy was some sort of imprisoning circle that recently ran out of power. The devil subordinate hesitated for a bit before speaking again. We believe that these magic circles might have been used to imprison angels. The sudden interruption from his master startled the devil, but soon his eyes were filled with admiration. Indeed. As expected of my lord. That is the same conclusion that my team has come to as well. Quote. Anything else? We have also found traces of old Satan faction activity, but those details have already been sent back to the capital for the 4 Satans to take care of. In that case, have your team retreat back to our territory. I will return once I am sure that there is nothing else left here. Of course. It was only when all of his subordinates had left the area that Zekram allowed his nervousness to show as he shot towards the ground, straight towards the ruins that were once the concentration grounds for the enemy during the Great War. Even after all these years, the great king of the Baal still remembered the layout of this city like the back of his hand and easily navigated its underground structures, easily arriving at the familiar place that had not seen use since the end of the Great War nearly 1,000 years ago. Rows upon rows of prison cells lined with the black stones of the underworld, allowing the devil race to use their magic circles to suppress the weaker angels of heaven during the Great War. Many were the atrocities committed in this place, ones that would make the current 4 Satans even more disgusted with their predecessors. Countless lesser angels had been tortured, interrogated, and destroyed in these very cells. Some became fallen angels after their purity was defiled by their captors physically, mentally, and in every other way imaginable, while others who refused to break were driven to death by demonic hands. Yet, there was one cell that no devil dared to touch. A prison that housed the prized prisoner of the original 4 Satans. Specifically, the Morningstar himself. Nobody knows who or what required such personal attention from the original 4 Satans and why they were imprisoned in a forgotten cell that nobody was allowed to approach. Some believed that the cell held the last remaining demon of the underworld. The original denizens of the underworld that were massacred by God and his armies before Lucifer's exile. Others believed that it was an angel. A powerful seraph that Lucifer somehow managed to capture and imprisoned in the underworld for some reason. Many were the legends and theories that spawned from this place, only to be slowly forgotten by time. Zekram and the rest of the progenitors of the 72 pillars never really put stock into those legends. If it really was a demon, then it was a good thing that such a savage and powerful being was held prisoner in the forgotten old capital of their race. If it were an angel, then it was a good thing that nobody remembered this place anymore, since they did not wish to fight the heavens right now by exposing such an existence within their world. And yet, now, after all these years, Zekram could not help the trepidation that filled his heart as he remembered the ridiculously potent holy energy he felt in the air. Holy energy so intense that it reminded him of the time when the heavenly host marched through the battlefield with the 10 seraphim leading them from the front and God himself as their general. Soon, he arrived at the forbidden area where no one was allowed during the reign of the original 4, the place that was forgotten after the 2-century-long devil civil war and left to rot for the past 800 years. And what he found there was exactly what he had seen in the pictures that his subordinates had taken. An empty, crumbling cell with a colossal stasis magic circle etched into the floor. The remnant demonic energy was finally spent after centuries of continuous use. And the potent remnant holy energy that no doubt belonged to an angel. Zekram did not know who or what exactly was being imprisoned in this place, but one thing was for certain. Someone powerful had just woken up from a 1,000-year-long imprisonment. Someone who possibly did not know about the end of the Great War, the death of God, the devil's civil war, and various other events that might stay his hand. And it did not bode well for anyone to have someone like that in the wild. Perhaps, it is time I contact that brat Sirzex and his friends to take care of this mess. They are the current rulers of the devil race, so it is only right that they take care of this issue. With a decision made, the devil progenitor left the area, heading straight for the city of Lilith, the capital of the underworld. As for the being in question, he was having a rather hard time understanding just what kind of world he ended up in. Chapter 4. Every child on earth knows the story ever since they are of an age to learn. A propaganda that children only realize when they grow up and learn the cruelty of reality. It is said that by the beginning of the 22nd century, the advanced environmental destruction caused by the neglect of the governments across the world led to massive food shortages that shortly led to riots and coups across the world. What the people in charge fail to teach with propaganda is that they, the various companies, industries, and firms, were the primary cause behind the environmental destruction, with the governments only being guilty of turning a blind eye to the suffering of the common people until everything came to a head. A propaganda that everyone is forced to believe. Because the promise of universal knowledge and equal rights had long since faded from my world. The moment the private industries got a hold of political power and started to rule the world, it was a guarantee that the common people would no longer have any rights. In my generation, children were born into a desolate world where the skies are perpetually clouded with smog, acid rains down from the skies, the land is barren, and the water is polluted. Even our very lungs are injected with nanomachines from the very moment of our birth to modify them artificially, creating a set of artificial lungs that would allow us to breathe in the polluted atmosphere. Such is the fate of the common people of my world. As for the rich, they are the ones who truly live in luxury. With real fruit and vegetables growing within their personal domes called arcologies, where the atmosphere is carefully controlled by AI systems to maintain a perfect atmosphere free of pollution. With clean and pure drinking water, authentic food, the last few specimens of flora and fauna, and other such luxuries and decadence. It was because of this darkness that we faced every day that people always sought an escape, even if it was in a virtual world. Of course, the companies would not allow that, so they passed the Social Order Maintenance Act and other such things to keep the ordinary people under their thumb, but that is a different matter altogether. Now, why am I bringing up all of this? Because what I am seeing in front of me is something that I had only ever seen in old recordings from the early 21st century. Beautiful, clear blue skies with the warmth of the sun shining on my skin. Clean and refreshing air that felt invigorating. The small creek showed crystal clear running water. The large real forest stretched as far as I could see. And the distinct feeling of life that I could sense with my new senses made hope bloom in my heart. Life. That is what I was seeing all around me. Something that was lost to my earth for a long time. Something that we never even dared to hope to see in our lives. With an unnatural ease, I flexed my wings, making them disappear into my back along with my halo, which also disappeared at my command. With another thought, my armor disappeared into motes of light, and a simple level 20 clothing set, which was made up of a simple white button-up shirt, black pants, and black boots, materialized on my body. Bending down to the stream, I carefully dipped my fingers into it, afraid that my move would somehow contaminate this beautiful stream. Logically, I knew it was not possible. Unlike the people of Japan, who were suppressed so heavily that they were not even allowed basic education by the conglomerate controlling the Japanese arcology, we in the USA at least were allowed to complete high school, even if the quality of education was nowhere near what it was in the early 21st century. Hence, I knew that merely touching the water would not pollute it. And yet, I could not help but treat it as a fragile existence that would fade if I looked at it the wrong way. A fear born out of yearning for this beauty that I always saw in my dreams and in videos of old. By this point, I am fairly sure that I have somehow traveled to a different world altogether. And it should still be some version of my Earth, given that the first thing I did after arriving here from wherever I was before was to shoot into low orbit and survey the planet below me, which clearly showed the familiar continents and the space junk that we call satellites. Now, one might question why I concluded that I am on an alternate Earth instead of simple time travel. The answer is quite simple. I can feel unnatural energies from across a few hundred miles of land all around me. Energies that simply cannot belong to humans because my newly gained instincts are telling me so. Tracking one of these energies to this forest exposed a strange creature that looked like a chimeric existence. A merger between a man and a goat, similar to the demon race in Yggdrasil, only uglier. After it showed blatant hostility, I used a simple tier 5 spell, Holy Smite, which was enough to vaporize the creature, leaving nothing behind. Yeah, this kind of creature most definitely could not have existed on my Earth. Because the conglomerates would never stop bragging about having these kinds of strange creatures under their control to the rest of the world. Looking into the stream, I saw my appearance for the first time since waking up, and I could not help but feel stunned at what I saw. Long blonde hair and beautiful blue eyes. A masculine face and purely human features when I am actively hiding my race. It was exactly like what I had designed my player avatar as during character creation. Yet, now, there was an unearthly beauty to my appearance that I simply could not place. A charm that would probably be irresistible for most people should someone like me appear in any place. Although I guess this could work to my advantage at the moment. First things first, I need information. To do that, I need some sort of place where I can access said information. My best guess is an institute called a library. A place where anyone could simply walk in and gain information freely. A foreign concept in my time, but one that was supposedly quite common in this era. Next, I need money. I need the currency of this era to fit in with the regular people for a while, until I can make sense of what is going on and where to go from here. To that end, I can only rely on my current powers to steal little bits of cash from a lot of people until I have enough for temporary arrangements. How the mighty have fallen. To think that the famed Dawnbringer has been reduced to a petty thief. Anyways, after the money issue is sorted, I need to start investigating what the hell that strange creature was and what kind of danger level 1 I'm playing with in this world. In Yggdrasil, it was common practice to carefully scout out any uncharted area since there was a high chance that any mob could kill even a top player if they were not careful. So the same rules should apply here as well. I will have to slowly and carefully scout out this earth and see what kind of foes I will have to deal with. For now, this is the only plan I have. I can make up more as I go, but these are the essentials. With that in mind, I use the flight spell to take off and keep close to the earth, keeping my race a secret for now since I do not want to give away everything about me just yet. When I first arrived here, I felt a large concentration of energy that felt strangely similar to my own power towards the east, so I think that should be a good spot to start my plan. Etherian. Click for image. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 5. When I followed the energy signature that felt similar to my own, I expected many things. I expected to find some kind of monster with a holy attribute or maybe even some kind of native creature that would give me a clue as to what is going on with this world. However, what I definitely did not expect was to find a rather small town that was full of peaceful people moving about their daily lives with nothing out of place. In fact, these people were so unguarded that some of them did not even notice when I sneakily used my superior stats to nick some money from their pockets. Granted, I could have used Time Stop to achieve the same effect with none the wiser, but I did not want to use a tier 10 spell for something as mundane as theft. After stealing from a lot of people, just enough to not be noticeable but enough for a good stack in my inventory, I quickly began the next step in the plan. Information. Surprisingly, it was rather easy to locate a local library and easily get access to it. And just like the stories said, the information inside really was free for anyone to access. An unfathomable fact for someone from my time. It was thanks to this unrestricted access to general information, combined with my overwhelmingly superior mind that I gained, based on my avatar's stats. It did not take me long to figure out where exactly I was. From what I found out, I am in a small town called Kuo, located in the Kanagawa Prefecture of Japan. The very same country that was the most oppressed in my time by the conglomerates and was still a rather hostile place for common people of this era, given the existence of the infamous black companies and terms like death by overwork. Fortunately, it would seem that I have somehow ended up in a place where not much goes on, and it is a rather quiet town. This means that I can take some time to reorient myself and conduct a few experiments to see just how much of my abilities and equipment I still have with me and how much of my body and mind has changed with this sudden transition from a human to a game character. The only problem now is a place to stay. I could make a base of operations for myself with the resources found in the forests nearby, thanks to my crafting skills, but any base I make with such low-level resources will not be good enough to handle my experiments. I could also use the tier 10 Create Fortress spell to make a place for myself that can easily resist all of my testing, not to mention that the space it would provide inside would be more than sufficient for me. However, the problem is that the fortress that the spell creates is so vast that it would stick out like a sore thumb in this small town and easily attract the wrong kind of attention. This means I will have to go the mundane route and get a regular apartment or something for myself, which is rather hard to do without any kind of identification hold up. Now that I think about it, aren't there supposed to be those criminal groups called Yakuza in this country who can do nearly anything for enough money? Maybe I should track some of those people down and use a tier 4 charm species spell to make them get me an ID and some money. Worst comes to worst, and they somehow resist that spell, I could still use a tier 10 control amnesia spell to erase their memories of me completely. Yeah, sounds like a solid plan for now. Now, to find them. Sitting on the fresh and unpolluted ground of the forest, I concentrated inward and called upon the spell that I would have once used through the console in the game. Widen Magic. God's Eye. In the game, this magic allowed me to see my surroundings in a bird's eye view. As a tier 9 magic, it is a spell that can see through everything. Illusions, stealth, items, nothing could stop me from seeing everything and identifying them on the screen. Yet, here, it felt completely different. It was as if the very sky had become my eyes, allowing me to peer down at the earth below me and to see anything that I wished to see. From the sneakiest mole hiding underground to the criminals hiding within their dens, I could see everything within this small town and the surrounding area. And unlike in the game, where labels were added to everything that was detected by my spell, here, I did not need any kind of system interface to tell me what I was seeing. I could instinctively tell what I was looking at. A small cat called Taro is running away from its home. A Shiba is dragging its owner with it as it chases after a squirrel. A man called Ryu was dealing with some shady stuff in a back alley near the mall. A biker gang bickering with the local yakuza. A man of faith called Masaomi Yagaki is going on a date with his devil girlfriend, Claria Belial. Okay. What was that last part? I peered down with my God's eye and refocused on what I just saw. And sure enough, what I just saw was not some hallucination. The young man with long black hair and eyes, clearly of Japanese descent, was identified as Masaomi Yagaki by my spell. It told me that he is a man from the Protestant church and something called an exorcist. Truth be told, it is hard for me to contextualize what my spell is telling me. I know that Christianity was a major religion during this time, but I don't understand what Protestant means in this context. By the time of my generation, religions of all kinds were banned from being practiced. A ban that the conglomerates enforced rather thoroughly by destroying any and all artifacts, holy sites, and anything else that could be associated with any religion in the world. They said that religion poisons the mind and divides people. But everyone knew that what they were doing was taking away the solace and hope that common people could have through religion. After all, if there is no hope, no solace, no cultural and religious identity to call your own, then what would you fight against the conglomerates for? What would motivate you to go against such behemoths? Anyway, back to the topic. The boy seems to be someone from the church, and he seems to possess some kind of holy energy that is partially resonating with my own power. An interesting development, one that I will study at a later time. But for now, it is his companion that has garnered my full attention. Claria Belial. A child from the Belial clan of devils. That is what my spell is currently telling me about her. But the thing that is making me interested is how I felt a sudden surge of unease and rage the moment my spell told me that she is a devil. An interesting reaction considering that I never felt like this back in the game. I mean, I have met a lot of players with different types of races, ranging from undead to slimes, to dragonoids, and many more, including devils and demons, yet I have never felt this way when meeting them. This means that the source of these emotions must be this new situation I have found myself in. Truly, how intriguing. I continued watching the duo as they moved towards the local mall. However, when I tried to take a close look at the woman's face, her head suddenly snapped towards the sky, straight into my God's eye with her eyes wide in terror. Interesting. Looks like she has detected my observation. A shame. With a thought, I cut off the flow of my mana to the spell, allowing it to fade and making my vision return to my physical body. A devil, huh? So my conclusion was not wrong after all. This really is an interesting world. I will need to investigate her and her boyfriend later on. But for now, I need to take care of the shelter issue. And given that I already found the local yakuza, it is time I pay them a little visit. A strange feeling of elation and anxiousness flooded my heart as I thought about what the future might hold from here on out. Excitement. An emotion that I have only ever felt in Yggdrasil. Who would have thought that I would be lucky enough to feel such an emotion in real life? Hopefully, I will feel more of this emotion in the future. Fly. With the flight spell activated, a necessity since I chose to hide my wings, I shot into the sky while also activating a tier 9 spell called Perfect Unknowable, that rendered me invisible to the eye, removed my scent, muted my sound, and removed my presence, making me impossible to detect by anyone that does not know the God's Eye spell. Time to get a temporary home for myself. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 6. Agony. That is the only thing I could remember as I jerked awake. My vision did not exist. A blindfold. Panic. Panic flooded my mind as I tried to move my arms. Yet they did not respond. What is going on? Why is my body not responding? Oh, you have awakened. A shame, I did not want you to feel this pain. But, then again, given what you did to those poor girls, I think this is justified. I felt a chill in my heart as soon as I heard that smooth, magnetic voice. I knew that voice. I heard it just before. Before I was knocked out by an angel. No. 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 I started thrashing again, trying to escape from my captor, but the bindings would not budge. You are that eager to escape. Unfortunately, you won't be going anywhere until I am done examining your internals. Quite the interesting biology you got there. Once again, I felt unspeakable agony as something sharp sliced upon some part of my body. I don't know where, my mind is all muddled, and everything hurts. The pain is too much. I can't endure it. I felt my teeth bleed as they bit into whatever restraint this angel placed within my mouth, and miraculously, I managed to bite through it. Please, let me go. I don't want to die. My words stopped as a scream tore through the air. Was that my voice? Was I the one screaming? I don't know. The pain is too much. I can't think straight. I don't know how long the scream resounded in my ears before it was abruptly silenced by agonizing pain coming from my mouth. Even through my delirious mind, I could instinctively identify the holy energy that burned my mouth shut. This angel, he forcefully sealed my mouth shut by burning it close. Oh, interesting. So my theory was right. Your body's true nature is closely related to the evil alignment, and holy damage is significantly amplified against your kind. I did not want to stay awake for this sick and twisted torture that this angel was committing on me. I want to go unconscious. I want to die already. Wait a minute. I know what to do. I forcefully mobilized the demonic energy within me and forced it into the pawn piece within my heart. If I detonate the evil piece, I can die in the explosion. I will be free. Ultimate disturb. Once again, agony dominated my mind as those words rang out across the tapestry of reality. I felt my magical resistance and physicality in general be enhanced far beyond what I could have ever dreamed of, but I could no longer mobilize my demonic energy. Good. Looks like it worked exactly how I wanted it. I can't have you dying so easily, and neither can I have you attempting suicide like that. So, I made your body stronger so that it can withstand some more experimentation. The downside of this spell is that your ability to mobilize your mana or whatever equivalent you have is now rendered impossible. Suddenly, despite not having my eyes covered, I could tell that I was being stared at by a burning gaze. I felt my body shiver in terror as the angel's calm words rang out in my ears. Do you wish for mercy? Weakling. Do you wish for this suffering to end? I could not have nodded faster at those words, but my only response was another bout of agony as I felt one of my ribs being forcefully ripped out of my body. Unfortunately, I have no mercy to spare for a monster like you. I felt another rib pulled out of my body. Do you remember the screams? Beast. The screams for mercy that your victims called for. My right arm's skin was torn away, after which he pulled out the tendons beneath. And yet, I felt a spell take hold of my mind and make me remember exactly what he was speaking about. Do you remember how that girl begged you to let her go? How she pleaded to leave her be as you ravaged her before eating her alive? 10 days ago, I came across a college student walking home by herself late at night. No other human in sight, and neither that bitch of the Belial seems to be around. Enchanting black eyes and silky black hair that fell to her well-proportioned back. A perfect prey to satiate my hunger. So, I did what I wanted and took her to my nest. I enjoyed her tender body for a day before I ate her up to fill my belly. Once again, pain shot through my body as he pulled apart my leg, slowly and carefully extracting my leg bone. Do you remember the little boy? The one whose parents are still searching for even now. A 10-year-old boy. I remember him. It was when I first fled to this town after leaving the underworld behind nearly 4 months ago. After I killed my master, my demonic energy was going out of control, and my body had just started to deform. So, I was desperate and starving for unpolluted life energy. That was when I found the boy playing all alone in the park without supervision. I ate that brat whole and was astonished to find that his life force satiated my hunger for nearly 4 months, allowing me to sleep without hunger for all that time. My burnt shut lips tore open as I screamed myself hoarse, as the angel dug into my back and slowly started to pull on my vertebrae. Finally, the blindfold fell from my eyes as my body thrashed under the agony. But I soon came to regret it. The visage I beheld was beautiful. Long blonde hair tied back into a tail. Beautiful blue eyes that felt like they would pull me in. A charming face that would make anyone swoon, regardless of gender. A divine radiance that would make most humans kneel almost on instinct. Yet, such a beauty could not hide the burning rage I beheld in his eyes. The holy energy around him was thin, like wisps of smoke that would coil around a person who had just come out of a hot bath. But this did not fool me one bit. Because I could feel the colossal weight of his holy energy tightly restrained within his body. It was a testament to his skill and ability that only those tiny strands of energy were leaking from him despite his apocalyptic rage. A beautiful, melodious voice escaped from his mouth. A voice that could enchant any god or devil and make them do anything he wanted. Yet, all I felt was terror as that beautiful voice slithered into my ears like a poisonous snake, proclaiming my doom. Such an evil being like you has no right to beg for mercy. Mercer the stray devil. With your own memories that I have seen as the proof, I hereby proclaim you guilty. Your punishment is death. Holy fire. If what I experienced before was agony, then this was so beyond it that I had no words to describe it. Beautiful white flames danced in the air in such a way that they would mesmerize anyone who beheld them. Yet I felt soul-chilling pain as these holy flames burned me on a conceptual level. I wanted to scream, curse, beg for mercy, and many more things. Yet, I was denied that as the flames quickly consumed me. And then, I knew no more. Etherian Pav. I felt pure disgust as I watched the stray devil burn in my holy fire spell, his disgusting form reduced to atoms by the pure energy of the spell. A week. That was all it took for this damned world to show its ugliness to me. Things were going so well. I had gone to the Yakuza, convinced them to make me an identity to blend in. Got some money by using the create greater item spell. In hindsight, maybe that is what I should have done from the very beginning instead of stealing from others, and even got myself a rather quaint apartment at the edges of the town. However, just as I was getting ready to hunker down and test out my abilities, I was overwhelmed with disgust as a rather weak energy signature washed over me. It was as if I had smelled something particularly foul, making me gag in reflex while my instincts practically demanded that I annihilate this offensive thing before it spread its filth in the area I lived. So, it is exactly what I did. I flew into the air using my hiding spell and came to the source of the smell in a small warehouse nearby. What I saw inside made my blood boil. A grotesquely deformed humanoid creature was feasting on the corpse of an elderly man. Given his clothing and the discarded bag nearby, he must have been an employee of the firm that is right across my apartment complex. The curious thing was that this creature reeked of the same kind of demonic energy as that of the Belial girl that I was observing when I first came to this world. The only difference was that this creature's energy felt much more corrupt, darker, and evil compared to that of the girl. I wanted to smite that creature then and there. But given the lack of information that I had on this world, I wanted to know more about this thing before making a decision. So, in a foolish move that I am still regretting, I activated the spell Retrocognition after knocking him out and restraining him. In the game, this spell allows the user to sneak a peek into their opponent's character setting, their karmic value, their spell repertoire, items, and many other such things. The only downside was that this spell cannot be used on players and monsters that are equal to or above the caster's level. However, in this world, the spell worked differently. I saw everything that this creature ever saw. All his knowledge and memories became mine. And all I felt was absolute disgust, enough to make me consider scrubbing my own soul if that was even possible. Somehow, I felt tainted by just looking at his memories. I saw how this monster relished in killing and violating innocent people to satiate his endless hunger. I saw how he felt glee in lording his power over the common people that unwittingly walked into his path. I saw the monster for what it was. And I decided to punish it for its actions. I could have simply ended its life then and there, or maybe even tortured it some more, now that I knew what exactly it was, what its status was in the pecking order of this world, and how exactly I should harm it to prolong its pain. Yet, I wanted it to experience pain. The same pain that his victims felt. So, I decided to kill two birds with one stone. So, this creature suffered agony, the payment for his sins, as I used a level 50 blessed knife to cut him open and see how his body functioned. A win-win scenario. And yet, even as his body was reduced to dust, I felt no satisfaction. Just because he died in agony does not mean that the poor girl he killed would come back home to her devastated parents. Just because he died does not mean that the old woman who was waiting for her husband would find solace. Just because he died does not mean that the innocent child who died at his hands would come back to life. If their corpses were intact, I could try to use resurrection magic to see if I could bring them back. But unfortunately, this monster had long since devoured them whole. Even the old man that he was in the process of eating when I stumbled upon him, only had his bottom half and clothes left behind. I felt it was too cruel to leave parts of his body behind for wild creatures to eat or for the police to find and tell the devastating news to the old woman. So I destroyed his remains and only kept his ID so that I could track down his address later on. With a sigh, I cast a Tier 1 clean spell to get rid of all the blood and gore, then put away the body parts one harvested from the creature before I left the warehouse and slowly walked towards the cemetery near the edge of the town, right by the pristine church. As a player with my alchemist, herbalist, and various other crafting classes maxed out, I could always see harvestable resources marked for me within my view as highlighted objects. But here, I did not see things like that. Instead, I could instinctively tell what things I could use for my crafts and what I could not. And the body parts that I pulled from the stray devil were definitely good materials for alchemy, even if they are not that high quality. Soon, I arrived at the graveyard by the church, which was unguarded, showing that people were not really afraid of grave robbers. Making sure that nobody was around, I used Create Greater item to make 3 nameless gravestones and placed them in the ground. The damned stray devil did not even know their names, so I had nothing that I could carve on these headstones. So, I had no choice but to leave them be. Once again, I spread my senses across the area, making sure that nobody was nearby, before I let go of my disguise. My wings unfurled as my halo erupted with pure light above my head, illuminating my surroundings. Remembering what I once saw in the videos of old, I took a knee and clasped my hands together in a praying motion. I do not know how to pray properly or how to say final rites for those who have departed. But if there is a God in this world, I want you to listen to my words. I ask that you guide these unfortunate souls to the afterlife unbothered. I ask you to tell them that I have avenged their unjust deaths. I ask that you prove yourself better than whatever God existed in my world who could not care less about us, and protect these poor people who died so horrifically. Once again, I reined in my wings and halo, returning to my human visage, and bowed down to the 3 headstones. I hope you find peace in whatever afterlife you end up in. As for your families, I will try to find out who they are and try to guide them indirectly to your graves. At the very least, they need to know that you are all in the afterlife. I know that I would be killing their families emotionally by taking away their last hopes that their children and the old woman's husband would come back safe, but I cannot have these unfortunate people live with false hope for their entire lives. As someone who once lived with such false hopes, I know how painful it is if such a hope is not nipped in the bud. Truly, such a strange world I have found myself in. I cast my invisibility spell and used fly to take off, heading straight home. The knowledge I gained from the stray devil is too vast for me to take at face value. I will need some time to contemplate and understand what I received. As the otherworldly angel left the cemetery, he was unaware that wisps of pure holy energy gently curled down from the heavens and tenderly stretched into the ground, exactly where he had placed the graves of the 3 victims. The tendrils of holy energy originating from the very system of heaven, a hidden part of the system that nobody alive knew about, slowly and carefully held onto the 3 human souls and gently pulled them into the sky, straight into heaven. Once upon a time, it was said that the Heavenly Father would welcome any lost lamb through the pearly gates of heaven. That anyone deemed free of sin, those who were deemed innocent, and those who once lost their path only to find it again, would be welcomed into his embrace. In those days, when the Lord walked among his people, it was common to see the system of heaven guide the lost souls of people who had died unjustly to the gates of heaven, welcoming all who chose to follow his teachings. Yet, after certain events, such was no longer the case. It had become sadly common for many a soul to simply slip through the net as it were. For those who died unjustly to be left on the mortal plane, doomed to roam around as restless ghosts or wraiths, slaves to accomplished mages or exorcised as evil spirits. Mortals who were born with weapons and tools that he had created to protect them were either killed before they could bloom or were tempted away from their race by darker beings that lurk in the shadows, all because his children no longer performed their duty as the guardians of the world. Mortals looked up at the heavens for salvation, a salvation that would never come, for the denizens of the 7 heavens had shut themselves away from their charges. With no other choice, the mortal then looks to their fellow men and women of the cloth, only to find darkness lurking within their white robes. All the while, the heavenly system, the very thing that the Lord created to prevent all these tragedies, tried and failed to react in time, trying to follow its original programming, yet failing to do so, all because its true wielder, the one who would supply it with his potent light, was no longer there, and in his place was someone who was simply not strong enough to bear such a burden. But now, after nearly 1,000 years since it was last seen, the heavenly system acted on its own once more, piggybacking on the absurdly potent holy energy it had felt in this area. Its programming running at full power for the first time in a millennium, as its power was felt across the seven heavens, jolting awake all of the seraphim who were busy with their own things. For the first time in 1,000 years, the daily prayers and heartfelt pleas of those who follow heaven's teachings were rewarded. Lost souls that wander the world were snatched up by the system, guiding them to their destination as it was meant to be. For a few precious moments, the entire world came alive as the heavenly system reigned supreme across the territory of what is known as the Abrahamic faction, spooking many a god and pantheons that were eyeing these territories with ill intent. Unfortunately, just as quickly as it came alive, the system soon reverted back to what it was before, as the small fragments of pure holy energy it gathered were spent. What did all of this mean for the world moving forward? Nobody knew. But one thing was for certain. Things were finally starting to change, and the future that was once fixed had now become muddled. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 5 comments 0 vote. Chapter 7. I closed my eyes and concentrated inwards. There, deep within myself, I felt for the so-called light that the stray devil believed I had. And sure enough, I found it. It was a strange form of energy, intrinsically linked to my mana and indistinguishable unless I am looking specifically for it. But now that I am aware of it, I can easily call upon it. So I did exactly that. Using the stray devil's memories as the guide, I pulled on the light, trying to shape it into a light sphere as the native angels of this world could supposedly do with ease. Yet, my power refused to comply. I could manipulate the light energy just fine, making it move within my body as I wished and even making it form a thin film around my body. But the moment I tried to materialize it, it refused to obtain a coherent form, as if my very being was being suppressed by something unknown. With a sigh, I stopped trying and started writing in the small journal that I was quickly filling up after my experiments in the past 2 days. Light sphere experiment result, failure. Same issue as the other native, holy, spells that I faced before. My light refuses to manifest according to the system of this world, only materializing when I use spells from Yggdrasil. My theory is all but confirmed. I cannot use any spells or abilities that fall outside the system of Yggdrasil. Unless I use a certain object. I stared at the black ring on my thumb, shaped like a serpent biting its own tail. The Ouroboros. A world item that could literally break the game by overturning the rules that govern the system. Back in the game, some guild once used this item to keep Ains Ulgaun from claiming the 7 hidden mines, one of the rare few sources of the prismatic ores. I would know, since I was contracted by that guild along with many other top solo players to mine those resources for them since the time limit given to them by the shitty devs for only a single month before the effects of the ring would fade. Of course, they were not foolish enough to advertise their name so that the legendary Heteromorphic Players Guild could track them down for retribution and kept their identity hidden, so I don't know who they were, only that they used that specific world item to achieve their objective thanks to the developer message and compensation that was given to all the players as a result of that item's usage. The payment for that task was a good chunk of real money and some top-tier materials, along with a good chunk of the prismatic ores that I stole from under their noses. It was this large chunk of money, combined with my own whaling attempts at the Gachapon website, that helped me gain my own Ouroboros ring. Seriously, I lost nearly a third of my income to the gacha, along with the small fortune I made from that harvesting job. But all of this was in the game. Right now, it cannot be denied that I am in a real world with its own strange circumstances. Truth is, I don't know what will happen if I try to use this ring, so I am not too keen on using it right away. Thankfully, I could test things out with a few other items and spells that have similar properties. Concentrating on my spell repertoire, I called upon a particular super tier spell. Wish upon a star. In the game, when invoking this spell, a special effect similar to a meteor shower would form around the user as they are presented with options to choose from. The number and quality of the options available depended on how much express the player was willing to pay for invoking this spell or using it through an item of the same name. In some ways, it was a drastically less effective version of the 5 elements overcoming world item, which was itself a lesser version of the Ouroboros. However, it was no longer the case here. The moment I invoked the spell, I immediately felt like the world itself held its breath. As if all life had come to a grinding halt in awe of the power I just called upon. As if a part of creation itself was now peering down at me, willing to do anything that I asked of it. Frankly, it felt a little intimidating to feel all of this. Holding the spell, I tried to imagine some of my express disappearing into this spell, and immediately felt something within me drain at a rapid rate until a good chunk of it was gone. However, I did not find any menu manifest in front of me, and neither did some instinctual knowledge about what I could do flood my mind. Instead, I felt like I could literally wish for anything under a certain threshold that I could instinctively tell, and it would come true. That the world itself would bend over backwards to make my wish come true. Looks like this is a success. Without making any wish, I cancelled the spell, making the express go back within me since I did not make any wish. Although I did lose all the mana that I used to invoke that spell, along with one of the 3 uses of the ring shooting star, which makes this spell possible. Once again, I started writing down the result of my experiment. Super tier spell, Wish Upon a Star, is capable of being executed in this world and seems to be much more powerful and versatile than it was in the game. It serves as strong evidence that Ouroboros can be used in a similar way to allow me to grow without hard limits inherited from Yggdrasil. But first, I need information. I need to know if there is anything in this world's supernatural scene that is worth me breaking my limits by using such a unique item. I cannot waste such a cheat code unless I am absolutely sure that things in this world cannot be dealt with my current repertoire of skills and spells. Best option is to access the supernatural version of the internet and then find a way to get some general information about the global supernatural scene. Easier said than done, since I don't know where to get access to said network. The stray devil's memories told me that there were things like smartphones for the devils and many other supernatural creatures in the world, but the distribution of these things was handled by proxy companies that were under the control of the devils. This meant that I would have to leave the safety of this town and find such an outlet to buy one, which is also an issue since these people have ways to identify counterfeits or magically conjured money, so I will need some real money. Which brings me back to square one. Maybe I could use Wish Upon a Star to will one of those phones into existence. No. I can't do that just yet. I will need to see if I can still earn Express in this world before I spend any of my reserves. If I cannot get Express, then I will end up losing levels by consuming Express and end up weaker than I am right now, which is unacceptable until I am sure that nothing can threaten my life for now. But I can't know if I can gain Express unless I consult some Express to give space for newly gained Express, since I am already at the level cap for all of my job classes and racial class. Such a headache-inducing situation. With a sigh, I got up from the chair and put away the journal into my inventory before casting my concealment spell and taking off into the air through the window. I guess I will use that spell after all and try to see what I can manifest from my immediate needs that cost 1 or 2% of my Express. After that, I need to find some kind of monster to kill and see if I can gain Express. So much work to do. I guess that old saying about free lunch was right after all. I had to pay the price for this once-in-a-lifetime chance at a new life somehow. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 8. 7th Heaven Gates, the Realm of Heavens. At the gates that lead to the 7th heaven, a place that was once home to the God of the Bible and the place where the central core of the sacred gear system and heaven's system resides, a beautiful angel paced with worry. Her beautiful blonde hair fell like a waterfall behind her as her blue eyes kept going towards the gates, waiting for her brother, who had gone in to confirm what they were worried about. Soon, the gates started to open, making her perk up and head towards the entrance, her 12 wings fluttering as she shot forward with immense speed and came to a stop in front of her brother. Michael. What did you see? Michael, one of the first angels created by God and the current supervisor of heaven's system, shook his head at his sister's question. I did not find the source of the anomaly, Gabriel. I think whoever had initiated the salvation system has hidden themselves again. Worse yet, the system is refusing to track them even at my request. It says that my authority is not high enough for that. Gabriel could not help but feel confused at those words. But why would any angel hide themselves like that? Given the power we felt, they have to be someone on par with the seraphim, so it should be an occasion of celebration for us to have gained another angel of that caliber. Michael could not help but smile wryly at his sister's words. Gabriel, have you forgotten that we, the angels, created by Father, are incapable of growing in strength, unlike true living beings? Gabriel simply nodded her head with a pout. Why are you asking me such a basic question? Of course, I remember that fact. Then, can you tell me how an angel of such power suddenly appeared out of nowhere? Only with this question did Gabriel see what the problem was. God had originally created the angels as his helpers in shaping the world into what he wanted. To protect the original natives of this world, the humans, whom he had grown fond of shortly after he arrived here and saw them. Back then, His creation method was not as refined as it would be later on, so the first generation of angels had more in common with automatons than actual living beings. The first generation angels were incapable of growth. Incapable of change unless their very nature was twisted, like in the case of the Morningstar and the Fallen. Incapable of growing outside the set parameters that they were born with. Eternal, unchanging, incapable of growth and change. Such is the fate of the first-generation angels, including the seraphim. That is why, in this day and age, where the devils replenished their numbers and strength through the evil pieces and legitimate children born of their flesh, just like with the fallen who gained the ability to grow stronger after they were banished from heaven, the angels were left in a precarious situation where their numbers could not be replenished in any way. This meant that the death of every angel, even the weakest of them, was felt dearly. Worse still, unlike the devils and the fallen that could reproduce with each other or with other races, the angels could not do something like that unless they used a very arduous ritual that lasted an entire day and would not be allowed to have possessive or lustful intentions when procreating, something that is borderline impossible with how attractive the angels generally are, which meant that any such union would lead to the angels falling from grace, so nobody even tried that anymore. It was because of all these reasons that the angels had no choice but to shut themselves in heaven and ignore everything that was going on in the mortal world, abandoning the very duty for which they were originally created, all in the name of self-preservation and the preservation of their species. Watching his sister's contemplative face, Michael placed his palm on her head and spoke softly. We will have our answers after we find our missing brethren. Whoever they are obviously hiding themselves from harm. So it is imperative that we don't accidentally expose them to their enemies because we are in a rush. We will need to carefully investigate and find them as covertly as possible and then welcome them back into the fold. We cannot afford our kin to be divided in these trying times, even if the holy energy that the system felt from them was the strongest it had ever felt from an angel. Gabriel nodded her head to those words before an idea flashed in her mind. How about I go down there and try to search for them myself? Michael shot that idea down with a shake of his head. No. That is far too risky. Not to mention where that energy signature was detected, we do not know what will happen if our enemies learn that you are down there all by yourself. Then, how about I take Brother Uriel and Brother Raphael with me? Again. No. They have their own duties that they need to attend to, so you can't disturb them. Gabriel once again pouted at her brother's words as he chuckled at her expression. I'll send a message to Vasco Strada to start investigating. Given that the church has a presence in Kuo, it only makes sense to use that to our advantage and try to be subtle about our intentions. Fine. But I want to go with you when we find our kin so that I can greet them with you. Very well. Now, let's get going. The two angels soon left the seventh heaven and headed back to their abodes in the sixth heaven, where Michael sent a message to Vasco Strada, who, in turn, sent the message to Masami Yagaki, not knowing that something truly explosive was about to happen in a few days' time. Something that would shake up the Abrahamic faction's future for good. As for the focal point of all this mess, he was right now buried deep in countless online articles that he got from the newly created phone that allowed him to access the supernatural internet. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 9 comments 0 vote. Chapter 9. Magic Girl Levitan is here to save the day. The video continued playing, showing the devil girl shooting ridiculous-looking pink beams at her enemy, ending the show at that point. As the credits rolled, I did not know how to feel about what I just saw. Single quote. Fuck. So this is what it feels like to be bamboozled. Ever since I created this smartphone with the wish upon a star spell that surprisingly cost only 1% of my express, I had been going through the supernatural internet to understand the power dynamics of this world and what kind of beings existed here. It still hurts to lose some express, especially since I don't know if I can regain it in this world, but I have no choice in the matter. Surprisingly, it was rather easy to access most of this information, except for some things that were only referenced but were kept out of my reach due to their classified nature. However, during this search, I came upon a particular link that spoke of how the true power of one of the devil race's superiors, one of the 4 Satans, will be shown in a TV show of all things. So, I decided to check it out, only to feel like I needed some bleach for my eyes. How the hell is this woman one of the 4 strongest devils? This is clearly a chunny girl, far too lost in her own world. Truthfully, the girl was not bad, either in acting or in appearance. At least, she is far better than what passes for professional actors, in my time, who could never hide how dead they were inside from showing in their eyes and expressions. But the issue here is that I end up feeling secondhand embarrassment just watching this woman, who is centuries old, acting in such a way. Yes, Seraphal Leviathan is supposedly more than 800 years old. She was supposedly a teenager during some kind of conflict called the Devil Civil War that took place 8 centuries ago. With a sigh, I put away the phone and leaned back into the couch, thinking about what to do from here on out. From what I found out, this world has all kinds of supernatural creatures that belong to various mythologies. Ranging from ghosts, spirits, and other such things, all the way to top-level beings like gods and dragons. Something that gave me quite the pause. Even in Yggdrasil, dragons were considered quite the dangerous monsters to hunt. The damn things even manifested as raid bosses sometimes, especially when you least expect them. The last time I faced a dragon, it took me a whole lot of luck, trickery, and cash item spamming to defeat one all by myself, earning me the title of one-man raid. Conversely, the bodies of dragons are freaking treasure troves. Everything from their bodies could be harvested into rare items if someone had the right crafting class equipped, not to mention the rare quality data crystals and high-end artifacts they always drop. The fact remains, however, that the danger that I can face in this world could very well be on the same level as those raids, maybe even on the level of world enemies. The damn things that require entire guilds to bring down, like the Lords of the 7 Deadly Sins, or the 10 Archangels of Saphira that forced Dracovon and I to hire a guild that would help us take out those monsters in exchange for a 50% share of the drops. Worse yet, unlike those monsters that had set patterns and areas that they would not move out of, these beings in this world have free will and can literally appear anywhere should they want to, which means that I am in serious danger if one of those top-tier beings comes after me. Once again, looking at the Ouroboros ring on my thumb, I felt trepidation and determination fill me. There is no choice. I will have to remove the level cap and learn the native magic system if I am to become stronger. I will have to use up this trump card of mine. If I end up dead down the line because I was not strong enough and wished to preserve this power, it will be too late to cry about it at that point. The problem here is, where do I even attempt such a thing? The use of a world item leads to one hell of a light show that can be seen from a long distance away, not to mention the long casting time. The shitty devs designed it in such a way to balance the game-breaking powers that a custom world item has. However, in this world, this also means that I can easily attract the wrong kind of attention if I am not careful. So, the problem remains. Where do I even make this wish on my item? Looks like I will have to use that fortress after all. Hold up. Why not find an isolated location on the internet? The moment that idea entered my mind, I immediately got on my phone and started searching for an isolated place where I could do what I wanted. And wouldn't you know it? There was such a place available in Scotland. A small cluster of islands that nobody bothered with, either in the mundane world or in the supernatural community, given that the group of mermaids that were renting this island cluster on the net were rather blatant in listing it as a barren land that is practically worthless to anyone. It also helped that the rent that they are asking for a day is rather reasonable. Either a kilo of silver, which is roughly 2 pounds or so, or the equivalent of mortal currency. Not a bad deal, given that I could make a whole lot of that metal with some regular metals thanks to my alchemist class. Those barren lands should serve as a good place for me to use my Create Fortress spell, which will give me a secure and isolated place where I can use Ouroboros without anything or anyone disturbing me during the process. With the decision made, I immediately contacted the finfolk who listed the place and got down to negotiations. Hopefully, all of this effort will pay off, and nothing in this world will no-sell my world items attempt at removing my level cap and getting stronger. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 10. The powerful winds of the Scottish Highlands swept through my hair as the scent of the sea dominated my senses. The crashing of waves on the island and the sheer breath of life that I could feel all around me reminded me once again of what my world lost because of a handful of people and their greed. Such beauty, such nature, deserves to be protected. And if I can have my way this time around, I will make sure that this beautiful world will not walk on the same path as my own. Shaking my head to get rid of those thoughts, I turned back to the huge patch of barren rock that made up the main island between the cluster that I rented out for this day from the local finfolk. Supposedly, this land was artificially created after a battle between something called a boobry, a native monster in the area, and some kind of lesser dragon. Since both the creatures left the area soon after, the island fell under the ownership of the finfolk, who decided to list the place on the supernatural net to make some profit out of it. Which was fair, I guess. I mean, compared to many other isolated islands that the same group lists on the web for exorbitant prices because of their scenery and some of them having something called leylines, another subject to study later, this place serves well for my purposes. Spreading out my senses, I made sure that none of those curious finfolk were close by. I pulled on my mana and invoked the spell that I wanted to cast. First things first, the fortress. Create fortress. The tier 10 spell took hold of reality immediately as the very earth rose from beneath my feet. The stone morphed like liquid, climbing into the air like living tendrils before taking on a defined shape. The moment it attained the form of a 30-meter-tall fortress, it solidified into what looked like ordinary brick and mortar. But I knew the truth. This damn thing is a defensive structure in the same league as the tier 10 defensive druid spell, Nature's Shelter. The only thing that can pierce its defenses are absurdly powerful super tier spells specifically designed to destroy defensive magics, like Sword of Damocles. With the structure created, now it's time for concealment. Mirror World. The moment I invoked the spell, a hemispherical barrier sprang into existence around the castle, completely hiding it from the outside world. In some ways, it could be said that this screen acts like an isolating spell, completely separating this island from the outside world in every way. In the game, it was even capable of absorbing or reflecting a certain percentage of any attacks leveled against it, if it was discovered in the first place, which is hard to do. With both spells done, now it is time to go inside and take care of this issue immediately and get to work on learning this world system. One of the many features of the Create Fortress spell is that it is bigger on the inside than what its outward appearance would suggest, giving me plenty of space to use. It is a shame that this fortress is temporary and will fade when I will it. If it were a permanent structure, I would not mind trying to buy this island from the Finfolk. Then again, it is not wise to have my base of operations located in a place that is known to others. Walking into the massive chamber within the fortress, I unfurled my wings and halo, illuminating the space around me with the holy energy. But what I am more concerned about is the ring on my thumb. Truthfully speaking, I am very reluctant to use Ouroboros so early. It feels like I am using up one of my few trump cards merely because I am afraid of the adversity I would theoretically face in the future. But the same thought also leads to the various articles and information I read about the dangerous creatures of this world, and my determination once again grows stronger. An item is only useful as long as I am alive. What use is a world-breaking artifact if I am no longer there to use it? So, with my resolve once again going strong, I gritted my teeth and activated Ouroboros, making the ring shatter as a strange effect took place. The strange roar that felt like a mix of a snake's hiss and a dragon's roar rang out in my mind, followed by a strange dark void enveloping everything in the area, including the fortress. Good thing I used Mirror World earlier. If not, who knows what kind of beings I would have ended up attracting with such a commotion. Alright, enough distractions. Concentrate on the present. Closing my eyes, I waited for a few seconds until the phenomenon of activation stabilized. It was only when my instincts told me that the spell was ready that I made my wish out loud. I want all restrictions and limits removed from me. I want to be able to continue growing in every way possible without being restricted in any form. I want all level caps removed from all my classes and race classes. I want to be able to learn all the magics and abilities from this world without any kind of restrictions or obstacles getting in my way. No kind of limits, restrictions, obstacles, or caps shall exist on me anymore. I want to be able to gain express from anything that I kill in this world. I blurted out everything that came to my mind without thinking. I don't know how this spell will work in this world, so the safest method that I can think of is to spout out every wish that I have and see what sticks. I really hate wasting such a precious item even when I have no guarantee that it will work, but I really don't have any other choice. So I simply gritted my teeth and waited for anything to happen after speaking everything out. Thankfully, it would seem that my loss of a world item was not in vain, as I felt something within me break. But the moment it happened, I felt agony as something else tried to reach my very soul. Whatever it was, my instincts told me that it was pure and filled with holy energy, but I could also tell that it was not a living thing. Thankfully, whatever it was, it retreated after that initial probe as I flared my mana and light outward. Wait, am I seeing this right? I am sure that my face held a stunned expression as I tried to move my light energy with my mind, and it easily responded to my thoughts, forming tendrils of energy in the air which I slowly morphed into a spear, a sword, a blade, and then into a ball. The same energy that resisted my attempts to materialize it in the past was now responding to me as naturally as my mana, as if I were born with the ability to manipulate it. It worked. It really worked. Hell yeah. I grinned happily as the initial results showed that my gamble was a success. With this, I can now really start learning about the spells and abilities that he natives have and blend in better. With the happy grin still on my face, I dissolved the fortress and the mirror world before taking off back to Kuo. Now, all that is left is to earn a steady income for my stay in this world, and I already have an idea of how to do it. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 14 comments 0 vote. Chapter 11. You will stop your investigation right here. Claria. Claria Belial, a child from the branch family of the Belial clan, bit her lips as her gray eyes showed her unwillingness to give up. Yet, faced with the stern face of her uncle, Lord Belial, she could only swallow her argument and bow indifference. Yes, uncle. I am sorry for worrying you and aunt. Lord Belial's eyes softened slightly as he watched his niece's depressed look. Claria heard her uncle sigh, making her look as he leaned back into his seat and watched through the projection. My dear child. I am doing this for your own good. Zekram has been particularly twitchy these days and has made life hell for many of the moderate members in the Great King faction. He leaned forward and stared into his niece's gray eyes. If he were to catch wind that you have been meddling in the king peace business, I have no doubt that he will make sure that you can never move past the high class level and suppress your future opportunities, and it is only because you are from a pillar family. If you were an ordinary devil, I have no doubt that the old monster would not think twice before annihilating you and the rest of the family. Also, last I checked, you still want to enter the underworld's government and try to make things easier for the reincarnated devils. Am I wrong? Claria sighed heavily before shaking her head, making her long, gray locks sway with the movement. There you have it. Leave this issue here, Claria. It is not worth ruining your future over something so controversial and frankly, above your pay grade. And I am not saying this to discredit you, but because I am worried about you. I understand, uncle. I will leave things as they are. For now. Lord Belial caught those last words and could not help but shake his head in amusement. You and your cousin are the same. Stubborn to a fault. Just be careful. You hear me. If anything happens, call me immediately. Claria smiled at her uncle's words before bidding her goodbye, disconnecting the call. Just in time for her boyfriend to hug her from behind. You did not tell him about that matter. Claria leaned back into the embrace of her man for comfort as she mumbled out her thoughts. I don't want to worry him needlessly. Besides, after that time when I felt that absurd holy energy in the sky, we never came across any of it in the town. We only found regular levels of holy energy at a few places here and there, which are most likely from other exorcists. Masaumi raised an eyebrow at those words, knowing that she was only trying to convince herself and trying not to look at the truth lest it worry her even more. So, being the good boyfriend he was, he left things be and just held onto her and changed the topic. When do we leave for the underworld? In a week. Aunt is really looking forward to meeting you. Claria smiled happily as she remembered the last conversation she had with her aunt, talking about introducing her boyfriend formally to her family in secret. Being one of the 72 pillars, the Belial family would be discredited and would be made fun of by the other nobles if they knew that her boyfriend is an exorcist from the church, so she had no choice but to do this in secret, which always made her feel guilty, thinking that she was doing him an injustice. Like she was ashamed of the relationship she had with him. Thankfully, her boyfriend was an understanding person and never faulted her for all of these political issues. That's good. It gives me the time to pick up a gift for Lord and Lady Belial. Claria gave her boyfriend an amused look. Trying to charm my aunt and uncle so early. One would think you had some kind of hidden ambitions. Masaumi grinned mischievously as he leaned forward, pushing his lips to hers. Who says I don't? Stop you. Hey, that wasn't what you were screaming last night. Claria's face turned beet red as she hid her face into his chest. After playing around for a bit, the couple finally straightened their clothes and walked out of the small house that they owned in Kuo privately. When are you going on that mission you got assigned? Masaumi turned to his girlfriend and gave her a hug. Tonight. It's a standard stray devil extermination mission. But they say that this one is much stronger than others, so they are sending a different group of exorcists from out of town to assist me. Worst case, I should be back by tomorrow morning. But what about that mission you got earlier from the Vatican? Something about tracking down strange holy energy traces. Masaumi frowned at that reminder. Strangely enough, I did not hear any changes about that one. Maybe they are expecting me to continue on that mission after I take care of the stray devil. Claria shared her boyfriend's frown as she too failed to grasp the logic in that. But given her limited knowledge of how the church functions, she chose to let it go. Alright. Call me the moment you get back. Why? You worried about me? Claria smacked his shoulder with a light glare before smiling and giving a small goodbye kiss to him. If one were to ignore their species and occupations, they would look like a standard married couple where the wife was sending off her husband to work while she took care of the chores at home, except that the husband was a powerful exorcist for the church and the wife was a child from the 72 pillars of the underworld. Maybe this is why it was so easy to convince certain people of certain things and set things into motion that would have ended in a tragedy on both sides. Fortunately, this is not that timeline, for there exists an anomaly here that nobody could have accounted for. I never realized how much the limitations of Yggdrasil were holding me back until this moment. With my 12 wings outstretched and my arms spread wide, I pumped as much light energy into my wings as I could, along with my mana, boosting my flight speed far beyond anything that I could ever imagine. Blasting through the air right above the surface of the ocean below me, I could not help but laugh out loud. Truly, this is such a liberating sensation. A feeling that I simply could not put into words. Let's see how far I can push this. Greater haste. Air walk. Heavenly acceleration. At once, my speed increased to such ridiculous levels, making the ocean part beneath me due to the sheer pressure of my flight. But I was not done just yet. Time to bring out the big guns. Wings of purity, wings of acceleration, angelic glide, wings of dawn. Another burst of speed, but this time, it was such a big boost that it felt like time itself had slowed down while my body sped up to levels of speed that were hard to describe. Sonic booms erupted as I easily broke through the sound barrier and kept going faster and faster, pushing my powers to their limit. Within a matter of a single hour, I arrived at the shores of Japan all the way from Scotland. A journey that would normally take roughly 12 hours if I had flown at the speeds of a commercial airline. This meant that I was going at least Mach 9 to make such a quick trip. Very satisfying. It was only when I was close to the coast of Hamamatsu that I slowed down and cast my concealment spell to keep myself hidden, and continued heading northeast towards the Kanagawa prefecture. It really was a satisfying day for me, and I could not help but get home and get some sleep before getting to work on my next idea. Unfortunately, all my plans came crashing down when I returned to Kuo town and saw a rather strange scene. That boy, Masami. The kid that I had seen previously with my god's eye was surrounded by a bunch of humans who wore similar robes to his. Given his injured state and the way he was gritting his teeth while the other humans were saying something else, it is clear that this is a hostile situation. An internal conflict. How interesting. Masami Yagaki. Click here for image. Claria Belial. Click here for image. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 12. Masami glared at the man leading this group of exorcists. The man that he once called a friend, and could not help but spit out his bitter words, which reflected his own inner turmoil. Yuji, you bastard. I'll kill you for this. The man called Yuji simply stared coldly at Masami as he put away his light sword. You won't have that chance. Masami. And neither will that devil bitch. Shut up. Masami lunged forward with his sword, aiming to pierce the heart of the man he was facing, but he was quickly restrained by the holy chains that exorcists usually keep with them, pulling him down to the ground, while Yuji's expressions did not even change, as if he did not see the man before him as a threat. As I was saying, Belial has her own issues to deal with right now. Turns out, you are not the only one who pissed off their comrades by soliciting with the enemy. It did not take a genius to realize what Yuji was talking about, making Masami panic at the thought of any harm coming to his girlfriend. He looked towards his other superior, Tuji Shido, who just stared at his best friend with a neutral look. At least, he tried to look neutral. Because Masami knew the man well enough to see the heartbreak hidden within his gaze. You were in on this. Tuji. Even you betrayed me. I am sorry, Masami. But this is an order that came from the higher UPS. I have no choice. Masami immediately started struggling as much as he could, trying to get out of his binds and get to his beloved, to protect her from whoever was going to attack her. A sudden explosion rang out from the edge of the city, followed by multiple demonic energy signatures washing over the town. Yuji's lips barely turned up as he looked down with amusement at Masaumi's despair-filled face while Tuji looked away, unable to witness his friend's struggle like this. Looks like the other side has already begun. Might as well wrap this up and get out of this town before anyone realizes what happened. Shido. Take that holy sword. Tuji did not even look at his fellow pastor before speaking coldly. No. I am not worthy of touching that blade which belongs to Masaumi, in life and in death. Quote. Fine then. I hope you are ready to explain that back at HQ. Yuji reached beside Masaumi and took his nameless holy sword, wincing lightly as the blade rejected his hand. And yet, he still held onto the precious weapon that belongs to the church. It is a shame, really. As a natural holy sword wielder, we hope that you would lead us in the future to get rid of those blasphemous creatures. But who would have thought that you would fall for that bitch's seductions? No. The real issue is not that you fell for her seductions. Suddenly, magical energy erupted from Yuji's body as he leaned down and stared coldly into Masaumi's eyes while Tuji completely turned away, getting ready to leave this place behind. After all, he did not have anything left holding him and his family back in this town. Yuji's inner darkness showed as he gritted his teeth and spoke words filled with venom, something that would normally bring shame to any man of the cloth, but was commonplace in the church of this era. If you had just played around with her and left her behind after making her fall for you, breaking her heart, we would have praised you for your dedication to bringing the hurt to that wretched kind. But no. You actually fell in love with that devil. For that sin alone, you will die here today. Yuji raised the holy sword above him and forcefully pushed through its rejection of him, enduring the pain of having his hand burnt, as he pushed as much mana as he could into the blade, before swinging it down. With that motion, a large beam of holy energy burst out of the blade like a cannon, intending to vaporize Masaumi and everything else that was behind him. Unfortunately for Yuji and his companions, that was an action that the hidden figure above them could not accept. Suddenly, a dome made of pure light manifested around the entire group, isolating them from the outside world while also stopping the sword beam in its tracks through sheer pressure alone. The moment this happened, the holy sword in Yuji's hand caught fire, as if rejecting the man's very presence, making Yuji drop the blade in surprise and pain while Tuji stared up in surprise. Under the stunned eyes of the crowd, the sword levitated into the air on its own and shot upwards, right into the outstretched hand of the being that had intervened in this fight. The humans felt chills go down their spines even though awe and reverence filled their fanatical hearts. The enchanting blue eyes that glared down at them coldly, that long mane of gold that fluttered in the wind, those two wings of beautiful white, and the divine presence that could soothe anyone in his presence. The people of the church did not even hesitate before they fell to their knees in worship and joined their hands in prayer. For floating in front of them was an angel of heaven. Their direct superior, even surpassing the Pope in rank, even if the angel only had two wings. The angel lazily looked at the sword that had come to him on its own before staring down at the group. His tone sounded lazy, but the humans did not miss the hidden ire within his voice. I do not care if you lot fight to the death. Because it is not my place to intervene in an internal issue. However, if you dare bring harm to the innocent with your recklessness, you will answer to me. Yuji did not dare look up at the angel before he spoke out with conviction. My lord, we ask for your forgiveness. I was just trying to bring this sinner to justice, so I got too carried away. The angel simply raised his eyebrow at those words while Tuji looked at his fellow pastor as if he had lost his mind. Not even the Pope, or even Vasco Strata, would dare to question the words and commands of an angel, so what gave Yuji the courage to speak like this against one such heavenly being? The angel, on the other hand, simply stared at Yuji before speaking again. Sinner, is it? Is he some monster that killed innocent people? No, my lord. Is he someone who has either directly or indirectly brought suffering to the masses? Quote. No, my lord. Then, is he a bandit? A murderer who killed his fellow man unjustly? A man who harmed innocent beings for his own greed, lust, or any other such things? Cold sweat started to pour down the backs of all the church people as they felt the steadily rising holy energy of the angel with each of his questions being given a negative answer. Quote. No, my lord. Then, what is he guilty of? Quote. He solicited with the enemy. He fell in love with the Belial girl. Quote. Yuji nodded enthusiastically at the angel's words, but he felt a pit form in his stomach as the angel gave him a confused look. What of it? How is falling in love a sin? Shock was not a good enough word to describe what the exorcists felt when they heard those words from the angel. But let me stop you right there. Can you explain to me what is wrong with someone falling in love? She is a devil. And, is that the only justification you have? At least tell me that the girl is someone evil. That she has at least committed one of the crimes that I spoke of previously, or is manipulating that kid over there for her own ends. Wait, really? Your only justification for attacking your comrade was based on something as stupid as the girl's species. Once again, silence reigned as the humans had no answer for the angel's questions that shook their faith in the teachings of the church, while 2G nearly fell to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut as he put two and two together, realizing that this mission was not one sent to them by heaven but those old fools at the church for their own goals. If the orders of the church were not given by heaven, just what the hell was I even fighting for? Did I just raise my sword against my best friend because of those damned bastards at the Vatican and not because God willed it so? In this group of people, 2G was not the only one that called Masami a friend. So he was not the only one that was having such an internal crisis, while the rest of the exorcists who came from outside the town, including UG, who knew of the true dealings that took place at the Vatican, who knew the truth that the explosions happening on the other side of the town was not a battle between exorcists and a devil woman but a fight between the Great King faction and the lone Belial girl, started sweating bullets as their hearts were filled with pure terror. The angel sighed heavily before he mumbled out. I am not in the mood to deal with this. Sleep. The moment the spell was cast, the humans were instantly out cold and fell to the hard ground like a sack of potatoes, making Masami stare at the angel with awe and caution. But his majestic outlook on the angel was instantly shattered as the angel groaned into his palm. Damn it. I should have knocked them out after I made them go to the church. Now I have to carry their asses all the way over there myself. Another explosion rang out across the town, bringing Masami back to reality as he struggled against the chains, making the angel turn to him. Easy there, kid. Let me deal with those chains. Break item. The chains were reduced to scrap the moment the spell was uttered, releasing Masami, who gave a quick bow to the angel. Thank you, my lord, for this mercy. But I must go now. To save that Belial girl. Yes, my lord. Do you truly love her? So much so that you are willing to throw away your own life for her? Masami did not reply, but only gave a gaze full of determination. He expected many things to happen. He expected the angel to laugh at him, maybe call him naive and short-sighted, call him someone blinded by emotions, or maybe even chastise him for getting involved with the enemy. What he did not expect was the soft smile that graced his face or how his eyes gazed at him with a warmth that made Masami feel embarrassed, while his devotion to his God and his angels strengthened, thanks to the words that came out of the angel's mouth. Do you know how rare it is to find such a pure love? Especially when the people involved are separated by so many things out of their control. Masami did not say anything and continued looking away from the angel. That is why he did not notice when the angel unfurled 10 additional wings from behind his back while his halo's intensity skyrocketed. True blessing of heaven, angelic protection, divine barrier, holy armor, aura of purity. Masami felt astonished as the angel cast several spells on him in succession, making him feel like he could take on anyone right now and win. The angel's warm expressions remained, but there was now an edge in his blue eyes that made Masami stand tall. As I said before, I do not believe I have the right to interfere in this conflict. But I cannot watch such pure love be destroyed because of greed, envy, and blind hatred on the part of those above you. So, I have given you a chance to protect your love with your own hands. The sheer majesty and divinity that Masami felt at the moment from the angel, no, the seraph, would have made him drop down and worship him then and there if it were any other time. Go. Protect what you hold dear with your own hands. Never let anyone take it from you simply because they are born superior to you. Never let the world beat you down and reduce you to a mere cog in someone else's machine. Change your destiny, with your own two hands. Remember, the freedom of choice is your birthright, but with every choice comes a consequence. So, if your love is true, if your conviction is unbroken, face those consequences that come with your choice head on. Do not back down, do not give up. As long as your determination remains, nothing will ever stop you for long. With those words, the angel let go of Masami's holy sword, which fell straight into the human's hands, making him bow towards the angel. Thank you, my lord. The human did not even waste a single second and shot towards the conflict happening on the other side of the town, taking advantage of his overwhelmingly boosted abilities to make a beeline for the battlefield while his heart and faith felt firmer than ever before in his life, now knowing that he had gained the approval of those that he and everyone else in his life answers to. All the while, the otherworldly angel, Etherian, leaned back into the air, watching the departing humans back with a complicated look. Love, huh? I truly envy you, kid. I wish I had the privilege to feel such a pure emotion in my old life. Perhaps, it is worthwhile to give such a beautiful love some level of boon in the future. With those words mumbled out to no one, the angel shot towards the battlefield as well, his form slowly fading from view, indicating that he had used some form of concealment to hide himself. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 14 comments 0 vote. Chapter 13. Heaven. The upper ranks of the angels were in turmoil as they ran around like headless chickens as Heaven's system suddenly went into overdrive over Japan and started doing random things. But the ones who were the most affected were the 4 great seraphs, the leaders of Heaven. Michael closed his eyes with a frown, connecting with the system and trying to understand what was going on. Gabriel paced near her brother. Her emotions were in a constant flux as she tried to come to terms with what she had felt just a few minutes ago. Uriel frowned as he looked at the supernatural phone in his hand. Trying to see if there was any news in the supernatural community about what was happening over in Japan right now, which was a lot since the Heavens system was going into overdrive in that section of the world and was causing significant damage to any and all things and people that held even a shred of demonic energy or even the dark Tuki of the Yukai, forcing the East and West Yukai factions to set up barriers around their homes to protect themselves from Heaven's system. Raphael, for once, lost his playful personality as he too stared at his phone while sneaking glances at his little sister, worried about what she might be feeling after what just happened. The moment Michael opened his eyes tiredly, Gabriel was on him with a mix of worry, excitement, and sadness. Brother. Is what I felt true? Is he? Michael placed his hand on Gabriel's head, making her stop talking as he gave her a small smile. The power of his light is far too great, and his presence is completely different from what I remember. But there is no doubt about the soul that was detected by the system. It is him. Raphael nearly dropped his phone in shock when his doubts were confirmed, while Uriel's frown deepened with barely withheld rage and anxiousness flashing within his eyes. Those damn devils. It has to be them. They must have done something to him. Uriel. Now is not the time to point fingers. One of our brothers, long thought dead, has returned to the realm of the living. It is imperative that we retrieve him as quickly as possible. But how is any of this even possible? We were there when those damned traitors proclaimed his death with glee on the battlefield and fled before father would notice him. Uriel held a thoughtful face at that question before he put forth his own doubt. We never saw his corpse. Lucifer never showed us his corpse when he proclaimed that declaration. Who's to say that he did not imprison him somehow? For all this time, over 1,000 years, how would that traitor maintain such a prison so long after his own death? I do not know, that is why it is only a theory. But I do know how to get some answers. Uriel punched his palm as holy energy erupted from his body along with his 12 wings and halo, showing his willingness to march into the underworld to get some answers. But he was stopped by Michael's steady words. You won't do anything like that. Right now, Heaven is in no position to take on Seersex Lucifer and Ajuka Beelzebub. Are you kidding me? Have you even felt how the Heavens system is responding to us down there? Michael simply raised an eyebrow at those words. Strong enough to take on those 2 devils in their true forms. Instantly, Uriel fell silent, unable to delude himself any further since he knew that only his father would have been able to face and defeat those 2 so-called super devils. Michael spoke once again, repeating what he said before. I will say again. All we will do is bring back our lost brother to heaven, and nothing more. At least for now. If our brother is really responsible for how the system is responding, then maybe, in the future, we will have the chance to truly regain our former glory. But until then, we will continue to maintain our low profile. Fine. Uriel bit out those words with frustration. Raphael simply nodded his head. Gabriel's excitement was clear for everyone to see. With no other opposition to his words, Michael closed his eyes one more time and mobilized the power of the system, moving the 6th heaven from within its dimensional pocket to the skies of Japan. If they are to recover one of their lost flock, then they must do it in such a way that nobody would dare cross them again. Michael knew that this move was nothing more than false bravado since they were in no shape to truly fight any other pantheon, or even the devils and fallen angels, for that matter, but appearances must be maintained. So, despite the strain he felt, he made this overt move. Hang on, brother Ariel. We are coming for you. Claria Belial felt despair. She should have listened to her uncle. She should not have dug into whatever that old man Zekram was doing with the king pieces. She should have stopped when she found out about the truth behind how most of the top players in the raiding games gain their status and money, along with their families. No, she should have stopped even before. When she found out about the greatest mistake made by Ajuka Beelzebub, by creating the king pieces. But now, it is already too late. She felt tears gather in her eyes, but she would not give her opponents, these mere pawns being used by Zekram to get rid of her and her boyfriend, that satisfaction. Oh. Is the little bitch going to cry? Worried about that shitty exorcist of yours? Don't worry, by this point, he should already be dead at the hands of his own people. The brat from the Barbados clan's branch family gleefully spoke, making Claria's heart break even more. Suddenly, the brat threw an explosion spell at her, making her use her clan's ability, the power of worthless, to nullify the concept of explosion behind his attack. However, he took advantage of this momentary distraction to run towards her and deliver a knee strike straight to her abdomen. With a wheeze, she nearly fell to the floor, but she managed to hold back and tried to retake her stance, but she was forcefully pushed to the ground by Barbados. She felt her heart nearly stop as a chill shot down her spine, as his lecherous gaze roamed her body. You know, it is such a shame that we need to turn your body to ash. So, I'll give you a chance. Submit to me, become my pawn, and I'll let you live as my toy. What do you think? Claria kept silent, but she still responded to his offer with a spit on his face. Incensed, the boy gathered his demonic energy, which was strengthened by his peerless talent in magic, a trait that every Barbados has along with minor precognition abilities. Yet, even his precognition, which warned him of an incoming attack, was not fast enough to save him when a holy sword ran through his heart, killing him then and there. The last thing that the Barbados brat heard was the cold voice of the human exorcist that should have been dead by now. Anyone who touches my girlfriend must die. Seeing her beloved safe and sound, Claria nearly wept in joy, yet her joy was short-lived as a colossal wave of demonic energy erupted in the area, followed by a bored tone that sent shivers down their spines. How interesting. I knew we should not have trusted the humans to keep their end of the bargain. Claria gritted her teeth in frustration and terror as she beheld the bored man with long blue hair and green eyes who floated in the air lazily. Amanal Barbados. Belial. Been a while. A shame that you need to die today as per father's orders. But, before that, I have something else to say. The heir of the Barbados clan turned in the same direction from where Masaumi had arrived and spoke out. Come out, Angel. Why are you meddling in the underworld's business? Ho! You detected me through my illusion. How curious. The sudden voice made Claria's grip on her boyfriend's sleeve tighten while the human just stared with reverence as an angel with two wings materialized out of thin air. Amanal just gave the angel a dismissive look while charging his power. Of course, I would see through such a weak illusion. But, what else should I expect from a weakling like you? The angel chuckled at those words. True. That illusion was not even strong enough to be tier 1, given that I just created it on the fly. So it is no surprise that you saw through it. Flattery will not save you, Angel. For the crimes of meddling with the underworld's business, die. The angel did not even bother dodging as the concentrated demonic energy collided with his body, only to disperse harmlessly, unable to even scratch his form. Shocked would be an understatement for what Claria and the other devil followers of the Barbados clan felt while Masaumi only gave the devils a smug look. The angel, on the other hand, was still giving the devils an amused look. Is that it? I was hoping for something much stronger. I wanted to experience the power of the so-called high-class devils and see if I can't decode how you guys work. How dare you? Die. Barbados fired volley after volley of attacks, mixing in elemental, conceptual, and pure demonic attacks at the angel, but he still floated there harmlessly. Even more humiliatingly, he took out a journal and started to write something in it while he was still being bombarded by the Barbados air. Now thoroughly incensed and the infamous Barbados clan's temper provoked, he charged a colossal ball of demonic energy, uncaring if his own subordinates would be caught in the blast range, and threw it to the ground, intending to annihilate the entire block along with the weak angel. However, before the ball of energy could land, it was forcefully dispersed by the sheer holy power of the angel whose body erupted with pure light. Gone was the amused look on his face, and gone was the curiosity in his eyes. Now, all that was left was a cold look and a rage-filled gaze as his soul-chilling voice rang out in the area. Now, that was excessive. What would you have done if the humans had died in that attack? Barbados snorted at that question, suppressing the surge of instinctual fear that rose within his heart. So what if some insects died? Why should I care about their petty lives? Instead, they should be honored to have been given the chance to die at my hands. I see. I will ask you one final time. Do you really feel that way? That everyone who does not follow you is beneath you and their lives don't matter? Of course. Only the lives of the Pillar families, especially those loyal to Vermind. Anyways, only those lives matter. Everyone else is but tools that should feel honored. Holy Ray. His words were not even completed when his head disappeared from his body, courtesy of the concentrated beam of holy energy that erupted from the Tier 4 spell unleashed by the angel. The potency of the ray was so high that the high-class devil's body ignited on its own just by coming into contact with that beam, being reduced to nothing in a mere few seconds. Everyone stood rooted in their place, their hearts filled with terror, except for the sole human in the group whose heart was filled with awe, as the angel's cold voice once again rang out in the area. You know, I was not going to intervene in this fight at all. Because, like I said to that kid, this has nothing to do with me, and I have no right to interfere. But that Barbados brat was the one who called me out and attacked me, so this can only be called self-defense. My lord, if this is called self-defense, then the Great War was the greatest example of self-defense in all of existence. The angel gave the smug human an annoyed look before flicking his hand, sending a small stone straight to his head and giving Masami a bright red mark on his forehead. Ow. Shush now, kid. The adult is talking here. The devils in the area, including Claria, shivered as one as the angel's gaze fell on them. Being the intelligent girl she was, she had already noticed the way Masami was standing confidently. Coupled with his earlier words and the way the angel did not take offense, she put two and two together and wisely chose to hide behind her boyfriend to escape the angel's gaze. The angel let go of his control, revealing all of his wings and his halo's full power, which sent a new wave of terror through the hearts of the devils, as he leaned forward playfully. Now then, what to do with you lot? Suddenly, the night sky of Kuo was illuminated as if the sun was at its peak, an illusion that was created due to the potent light energy that erupted from beyond the sky, as a beautiful realm of light manifested into reality. Its sheer presence, its holy radiance, its elegance, all of it was enough to make anyone stare with awe and reverence. Yet, for the devils, this was no different than death personified as they frantically tried to escape the area with their lives. In their hearts, they cursed the Bale clan and the Barbados clan for putting them in this situation. Fortunately for them, their foe in this situation was far too distracted to care about them right now. Etherian, the angel from Yggdrasil, felt pure confusion and caution as the sixth heaven manifested above Kuo town, followed by 4 bursts of light that appeared just a few feet in front of him in the air. Oh, for the love of what now? Masami fell straight to his knees in reverence as the 4 clusters of light materialized into humanoid shapes before finally solidifying into the 4 great seraphs of heaven, ignoring Etherian's mutterings since he did not believe his pay grade was high enough to interfere with any quarrels between the heavenly host. The prince of the heavenly armies, Michael. The messenger of God, Gabriel. The angel of flame, Uriel. And the angel of healing, Raphael. Yet, instead of acknowledging the human who was clearly praying to them, the angels had their gaze locked onto Etherian as complicated emotions flashed through their eyes. Michael felt relief and joy fill his heart, emotions that reflected on his face, as he beheld the familiar face that had long since faded from his memory, only to re-emerge after all this time. Gabriel's eyes held unshed tears as she held back the grief and joy that threatened to burst through her heart. Beholding the familiar presence and soul of the angel that was once thought dead. Uriel also felt joy for the return of his kin, yet his attention was mostly focused on the devil girl hiding behind Masami, daring her to make a move. Raphael, out of the 4, was the only one to keep a somewhat level head as he spoke in a gentle voice. It is good to see you again, Ariel. It has been a long time. You do not know how much Brother Michael and Sister Gabriel grieved for you and the rest of our kin after that battle. To such heartfelt words, Etherian only had a single sentence to speak. Words that nearly shattered the hearts of all the angels gathered in the area. I'm sorry, but who are you again? And who the hell is Ariel? My name is Etherian, please remember it properly. Chapter 14. Claria Belial sat alongside her boyfriend as the five seraphs gathered in the small home that she called her own in this town. Normally, any devil who was in such a space, where holy energy was literally rolling off these divine beings' bodies, would have long since been reduced to ash. However, thanks to whatever protection her boyfriend gained from the angel called Etherian, the one being called Ariel by the four great seraphs, Masaumi was able to shield her from the effects of the holy energy by sitting by her side and keeping her body in contact with his own, allowing the protection to take her into its field as well. Etherian stared at the four archangels for a few seconds before he burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. I must admit, this is the most amusing story I have ever heard in my life. I mean, even the scammers that I knew in the past could not lie so blatantly with a straight face like this. Shouldn't you four have already fallen from grace by now for such a ridiculous lie? Ariel. Etherian. It is a name that means something to me. Michael fell silent at that forceful tone before Etherian took a deep breath and exhaled heavily. Alright, let's start from the beginning. You say that I was an angel called Ariel. Yes. That I was one of the oldest angels created by God alongside you four. Gabriel nodded enthusiastically with hope, which made Claria wince, knowing that she would not like whatever conclusion Etherian would come to, given how averse the angel in question was to accepting his supposed identity. And yet, I was a weakling with only 6 wings that got off-screened by Lucifer, and worse yet, you all believed the traitor of your race without even thinking twice or trying to search for me. The angels fell silent as tears nearly started to fall from Gabriel's eyes. Michael gave Etherian a wry smile with guilt and self-blame evident in his eyes. I know that we have not done right by you, Array Etherian, but believe me when I say that we searched everywhere for you. But when Father returned alone from his search for you and your unit after Lucifer's proclamation about your death, we had no choice but to believe it. Uriel grinned at Etherian, but his eyes still held sadness as he spoke. After all, you were one of the few angels who refused to leave him behind, even when he ordered everyone else to leave him alone to fight those cowards during many of the battles of the war. Not to mention that he loved you the most out of his first-generation angels alongside Lucifer, before his fall, and Samael before he went insane thanks to his duties and died in the war, and little Gabriel. Faced with the heartfelt words pouring out of Michael, Etherian only held a deadpan expression. Yeah, I call bullshit. This is the most blatant scam I have ever heard. Before Michael could speak again, Etherian raised his hand, stopping him in his tracks. How about this? I have a spell that can tell me the authenticity of your words, but it will be highly intrusive. The 4 archangels looked excited at the prospect of convincing their lost brother about the truth, so Etherian did not keep them in the dark and spoke directly. My spell will allow me to look into the memories of you 4, or anyone of your choosing. From the moment of your birth to this very moment, I will experience everything that you ever experienced. This also means that all of your secrets will be exposed to me as well. Looking at the contemplative look that the angels gained, Etherian leaned back into his seat with a smug look, as if he had finally succeeded in exposing their scam attempts so openly. Yet, he could not help but feel shocked when Gabriel did not even hesitate for a second. Do it. Look into my memories. Brother. Are you sure of it? I will know everything about you. No secrets will be left behind. Claria was not ashamed to say that even she, as a woman, was mesmerized by the radiant and trusting smile that the only female angel in the group directed at Etherian. I trust you, brother. No matter what name you chose or what form you deem necessary, I know you. I have known you all my life, so I trust you with my life. So, if the price I have to pay to get you back is just you looking through my memories, then I will gladly do it. After all, there is not much in there that you don't already know. I did not expect things to escalate to this extent. When these 4 showed up with much fanfare, moving one of the 7 heavens simply for a grand entrance was a bit much, but whatever, I guess I had expected a lot of things to happen. Frankly, ever since I discovered the details about the supernatural communities of this world, I had already prepared myself for this day. A day when the native angels of this world would accuse me of being an imposter or something of that nature and try to attack me on sight. Even in the best-case scenario, I expected some level of suspicion and caution from this race towards my strange existence. However, what I did not expect was for the beautiful woman in their group to throw herself into my arms with tears streaming down her face when I said that I am not Ariel. I was not some virtuous guy who never thought about the opposite sex. In fact, if one were to look at my collection of D-World records, the cinematic equivalent of DMMO-RPG where we can interact with a movie or video, they would immediately label me a lecherous guy. Not to unhealthy levels of obsession or anything like that, just an average amount for a guy that lived in a dystopia. And yet, despite such a literally divine woman throwing herself into my arms, I did not feel any kind of lustful intentions. Something to investigate later. It took me some time, a few gentle rejections for the obviously emotionally vulnerable woman and a few stern but polite warnings to the men, to get these four to stop overreacting and give me the much needed context behind their actions. But what I did not expect was some fanciful story about an angel called Ariel and my apparent similarity with him. Truthfully, I did not even believe a single word that came out of their mouths. My best guess is that either they are trying to fool me into something, or they are grasping at straws out of some kind of grief. Worst case, they might be mentally challenged, but I am not inclined to believe that since they don't seem all too unhinged for most of the part. Putting aside the many plot holes in their story, I knew my circumstances better than anyone else in this world. I was a player of the game Yggdrasil who was somehow incarnated into this world in my game avatar body, which just happened to be that of an angel. Granted, when I woke up, I was in some kind of destroyed prison room with a strange magic circle drawn on its floor in the underworld, from my understanding. But that means absolutely nothing. It is simply a coincidence as far as I am concerned. I hope I don't end up regretting using this spell again. Taking a deep breath and meeting the eyes of Gabriel, I invoked the spell that I used on that stray devil some time ago. Retrocognition. If the memories I saw within that stray devil's mind was a river, then the memories within Gabriel were a veritable ocean as I felt the sheer scale of them head on. I saw everything. From the moment she was created by a faceless humanoid being of pure light, I saw everything she ever saw, felt everything she felt. I saw her initial years, spent in the safety of heaven with her brothers and sisters. I saw how they stumbled about, trying to understand what they could and could not do. And much to my shock, I saw myself alongside two absurdly beautiful men, one of whom had strangely muted wings with a duller coloring compared to others of his kind. To be sure, the image I saw was not my human face or body. It was my Etherian form. But there were a few differences. That enchanting aura that I have right now is missing. The man in the image also had a duller shade of blonde hair and a darker shade of blue eyes. He was also much more androgynous compared to my purely masculine form. I can see where the misconception that these angels held came from. Except for these minor cosmetic changes, that angel, Ariel, really did look like me. Just how can such a coincidence even happen? I modeled my player avatar after my deceased little brother. I created this form based on what I imagined he might have looked like if he had lived past the age of 10. So, how can this angel share the same kind of face structure? I also understand now why she was the most obsessed with bringing me back to heaven and trying to make me confirm that I am Ariel. From what I have seen so far, she loved Ariel the most out of all her brothers and depended on him a lot during her early life, despite being stronger than him in most aspects. And she was also the one who was most devastated when Lucifer had proclaimed his death. I cut off my spell, having already found the source of this misunderstanding and not wishing to invade the woman's privacy more than necessary. Yet, faced with her radiant smile, I just replied stoically, knowing that my words would probably hurt her. I have seen your memories, and indeed, my appearance is quite similar to the angel Ariel. Yet, I must insist that this is just a coincidence. Another test, then. Michael's smile and words sent chills down my spine for some reason, but I still nodded. If you have any other way to prove your point, I am all ears. If not, I would ask you to leave so that I can get back to my research. Michael just smiled at those words and stood up, making his siblings do the same, even if I could see the reluctance in their gazes. I do have a way to prove our words. It will take some time to set up. Until then, we will not bother you anymore. However, I will say this, Etherian. When we prove ourselves, when we finally put forth irrefutable evidence and you no longer have any choice but to give up on this cruel act, I expect an apology towards Gabriel for hurting her so. I did not get the chance to say anything more before the four of them vanished in a flash of light, leaving behind a lot of things for me to think about. First things first, I will need to find a way back to where I appeared in this world. Some proper research is needed to understand what exactly happened at that time. Then, I need to. Excuse me, Etherian-sama. Can we speak now? The Belial girl's words brought me out of my thoughts, making me look towards the devil girl who was still using Masaumi as a shield. With an amused chuckle, I pulled back on my power, making my wings and halo disappear and returning me to my human disguise, significantly reducing the holy energy in the room. Indeed. Ms. Belial. I would love to listen to what you have to say. After that fight, where the four angels appeared, Claria had asked for a private meeting with me, requesting that I give her the chance to properly thank me. But I knew that things would not be that simple. There is no doubt that the girl is grateful for helping out her boyfriend, because I could see the genuine love she held for the human. But I could also tell that she had an ulterior motive in trying to meet me privately. Of course, this request was made telepathically since she would be turned into ash the moment she even suggested anything like that openly in the presence of the four angels at that time, especially with how unstable they were at that time. Leaning back into my seat, I watched the girl squirm a bit before she gathered the courage to speak. Let's see how audacious and ambitious the devils of this world can be. If she wants something mundane, like some kind of help from me that does not demand much, I'll help her. But, if she asks something unreasonable or asks me to become a part of her peerage, a concept that I am still struggling to cope with, given that it is blatant slavery with a rebrand, something that I hate with all my being, then I will leave and never answer any kind of calls for help from her. Claria suddenly bowed towards me, stunning me with her following words. Please hide us from the underworld's forces until I find a way to expose the Great King faction. Okay, I did not expect that. Author notes. Read 5 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rujard1. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 15. Zekram Bale gritted his teeth as his subordinates informed him about what happened in the human town. After the angel revealed himself to be a seraph, we had no choice but to leave the area. In other words, you failed your task of eliminating that brat and her human lover to bury the secrets she found out about us. Worse yet, you left such valuable intel in enemy hands and chose to run to save your own lives. The subordinates of the Barbados clan instantly felt a chill go down their spines and tried to defend themselves, some of them even ready to beg for mercy. Yet, they did not even have a second to do that as multiple orbs of pure darkness collided with their chests, annihilating them on a fundamental level. The Bale clan's famed ability, the power of destruction, annihilates their very existence on the spot. Useless people like you no longer need to exist. If so, then there is no need for you to exist either. Right, grandfather. The amused voice did not hide the edge behind those words as Zekram turned around, finding his descendant, Sears X Lucifer, leaning against the door of his room. With a frown, Zekram simply ignored the Satan's existence and got back to work, making the ruler of devils chuckle. What? No welcome, no greeting. Why are you here? Sears X Lucifer suddenly lost his smile as his power erupted from his body along with his cold voice. You know why I am here. Now, spare me this song and dance. Is that so? Very well. Let's speak frankly. Zekram's own demonic power erupted from his body, pushing back against Sears X's power, showing just how strong this old devil was. If you are here to talk about the issue with the Belial girl, no need to think about it. Her entire family is part of my faction, so it is not your place to interfere in it. Sears X remained silent, knowing that he could not do much about that particular thorn in his and his companion's side. The Great King faction, an alliance made up of nearly every single family head of the 72 pillars, who are still staunch supporters of aristocracy and believe that only the strong should rule the weak and that blood purity is more important than anything else. Truthfully, if it were up to Sears X, he would have wiped out these bastards a long time ago, even if he was uncertain of victory against Zekram himself, thanks to how deeply this old man hid himself and the true extent of his power. After all, he was one of the first generation of devils ever born to Lilith and one of the only 2 such devils still left alive in the modern era, with the other one being the original Grimoire, who is still in slumber somewhere in the Grimoire territory. Shaking his head to get rid of those thoughts, Sears X focused back on the current issue. I am talking about the marriage contract. Let me stop you right there. Grimoire. That contract was made by your father and Lord Finex all on their own. I had nothing to do with it. And you expect me to believe that? Yes. At the blatant lie, Sears X could not help but grit his teeth in rage and nearly let loose his true form. Screw the underworld and screw the rules. His sister took priority over everything else. Unfortunately, he knew that now was not the time to let himself go like that. Especially in such uncertain times when the heavens seemed to be at their strongest, if the way their system was actively suppressing devils in the human world was anything to go by. Let me be very clear, Zekram Bale. The moment you start playing with the life of my sister, I will annihilate you. Ho. That's so. Looks like your title as the so-called super devil has gone to your head. No matter. You will wake up to reality sooner or later, and I don't have the time to deal with a brat like you. So, go ahead, do what you will. But remember one thing. Suddenly, Zekram Bale's tone turned so cold that even Searsex could not help the chill that went down his spine. Never let your power get to your head and make you think that you are invincible, for even a worthless pawn can take down the king in the right circumstances. Do not become complacent because of your strength, because there will always be people stronger than you. Hate me, condemn me, try to kill me. Do what you will. But do not stop growing, because you are our race's pillar of strength, at least externally. And we cannot afford to lose you in these trying times. HMPH. Searsex did not reply to those words and simply teleported back to his home, back to his wife and son. Yet, Zekram did not even blink, knowing that most of his words had fallen on deaf ears thanks to Searsex's own pride and his obsessive love for his sister interfering with his thoughts. Looking through the various documents of old, which discuss the details of the prisons below Lucifod. Details that were kept a secret until the death of the original four Satans. Documents that spoke of the many horrific beings held there alongside the prisoners of the Great War from all sides. And finally, a single document that spoke of the original Lucifer's personal prisoner. One that nobody was allowed to interrogate but him. A supposedly horrific power that could lay waste to the entire underworld under the right circumstances. Zekram knew that most of these things must be mere speculations, yet he had no choice but to keep digging, because he knew that any piece of knowledge would help in some way to shed light on what exactly escaped from there on that fateful day. Truthfully, the original Bale already had a speculation on who had escaped from there based on the testimonies he got from the Barbados devils that survived the attack on Claria Belial. In this world, there existed only 10 seraphim. Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael rarely left the heavens. Metatron was still somewhere in Japan, acting like a ninja or whatever. Sandalphone, Ragal, Remiel, Sariel, and Zerachiel were also somewhere in heaven and rarely descended to the mortal world. With all 10 seraphim accounted for, Zekram believed that this new seraphim that had interfered in the attack was most probably the prisoner that had awakened in the underworld after 1,000 years and escaped to the mortal world. He had no way to prove this theory, but in his heart, Zekram believed this to be the truth. Truly, what a mess Lord Lucifer left behind for us to clean. His eyes gleamed as he looked into the distance, towards the capital of the underworld, Lilith. Get stronger, new Satans. Strong enough to face whatever may come our way. Because, with the awakening of that ghost of an era long past, there is no telling what the future holds for us. No answer met his whispers as he went back to work, trying to find any proof for his theory.